Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome along to round 4 of the 2020 NASCAR Euro Series Esports Series here on iRacing. We head towards Indianapolis on the road course for this evening's racing. Pre-qualifying took place a week ago. A few technical issues meant we couldn't be with you last week, but we're back with all of the action here on what is the road course, the 2.6 mile or 4.04 kilometre circuit, 12 turns, and there are a few other venues on the planet that can match in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for history. It was the first circuit to bear the Speedway name. Construction here started back in 1909, and the original races back in August of that year took place on what was a rolled soil and gravel surface. Changes were needed. Racing returned back to the circuit in 1910. And the short races were held over what was the 3 main bank holiday weekends. The following year, however, they established one single race over 500 miles, and the Indianapolis 500 was born. So exciting evening to look forward to. The same format as ever. Qualifying is about to take place. Then we'll have 3 heats, of which the top runners in each of those heats, the top 10, go through automatically to the final race. Andre Weigel joins me in commentary again. Andre, it's great to have you here alongside me again. What we've seen so far with the prologue event and the 3 championship races is 4 different winners of the main races out of the 4 that we've held.
Yes, right. The competition is absolutely great in this esports series here with the EuroNASCAR drivers, team members, and so on. So I think we saw a lot of thrilling races, exciting battles. And when we look at the practice times here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we see that there are a lot of drivers capable of winning. I think, again, consistency will be the key to get out of chaos, try to get a good position after the heats, and to be in a good position at the main race. And when we look at the front runners of the practice, Loris Hasemans, Tobias Dallenhauer, Jeffrey Rufen, Lasse Sørensen, Ulysse Dessau, and Andre Castro, they were the fastest. And we have Hasemans, Dallenhauer, Sørensen, and Dessau without a win in this series. So I think we might get the fifth winner in the 5th race, including the prologue.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Jeffrey Rufen is the man for me that I've been hugely impressed with. Crew chief on the number 7 for Hendricks Motorsport. Races late models, amongst other things, on short ovals. But he's one of the few drivers that's won every single weekend or every single evening that we've had. Quick look at the championship results. It's Lasse Sørensen for DF1 Racing that sits there at the top of the championship table, but just 3 points ahead of Jeffrey Rufen, who claimed his first main race win last time out. Loris Hasemans, the reigning EuroNASCAR Pro Champion, sitting there in 3rd position. 4th place, it's another DF1 racing driver, Andre Castro, ahead of Ulysse Dessau, Tobias Bauernhauer, who completes the top 6. Then it's Andreas Jochumsen, Brian Crowles, Alex Fontana, and Alan Day, twice a former champion in the EuroNASCAR Pro Series, missed the last round. He completes the top 10, but you can just see how close it is. And this is just the main part of the season. We head towards Brands Hatch, and from there on, it's double points in the playoffs and double points in the finals. So the championship is still more than alive. We're going to bring in our first guest to have a quick chat to us before we head towards qualifying. And I'd like to introduce the head of motorsport for DF1 Racing, and that is Norbert Weichhofer that joins us. Norbert, welcome along. You must be delighted the way things are going in the E-Series with Lasse Sørensen leading overall, and of course he claimed you the championship in EuroNASCAR 2 last year.
Yes, first of all, I want to say hello to everybody to watch the race tonight. So thanks to introduce me for today. Of course, we are very, very happy to have Lasse in front in the moment. But I think it's a lot of drivers out that have a chance to win this e-racing championship. So it's not only one. So we have Castro as well. But the Hendricks guys staying behind. And I think, let's see in 2 hours what's the real situation is.
When we get racing for Rio, hopefully we'll get racing underway at Vallelunga in September for our season, the full season to be confirmed as yet still. You're going to be busy guys, aren't you, at DF1 with some very competitive drivers and plenty of cars to engineer?
Yeah, this was our plan for this year, so fighting for all championship in the Pro Series, of course, with Ander Villarino and Lasse Sørensen, of course, with Justice Kuntz as well. And the next point is in the new NASCAR 2 and in the club as well. So, of course, we will be very busy, but it's the plan, so it's fine.
So I assume then back at the workshop, it's already busy, albeit the cars haven't turned a wheel, but already you're busy preparing for the season.
Yeah, so the people working, all the mechanics there, the data engineering working as well. So in the moment is the point we say we have time. That's the good thing about all the crisis to really establish everything. But I also would like to say thank you very much to Galvin. They are really doing a good job to make this season through. And so we wait. We are ready to go. And can just waiting out in our workshop to go there. And this is for us, but for everybody it's the same.
Well, we wish you all the very best, and we're eager to get back to the track. We wish you all the very best when we get the season underway. But thank you, Norbert, for joining us in commentary, and good luck on your build-up to the start of the season, and fingers crossed for your team in the Esports Series as well.
Thank you very much, and we will watch the game, this race tonight, and good luck for everybody. And thank you very much again for inviting me for tonight.
You're absolutely welcome. There we go. Norbert Weischgoffer, who is the head of motorsport for DF1 Racing. We wish them all of the very best indeed. So with our first interview done and dusted, we can look forward towards qualifying now. It's short and sharp qualifying in reality, Andre. We're already, 8.5 minutes into it. Andre Castro is topping the times at the moment, who of course is one of DF1 Racing drivers, and it's his teammate Lasse Sorensen that's second as things stand. So it's a DF Racing 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, and take a look at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. There are 3 Hendrick guys joining those two DF1 guys in the top 5. We saw it in the last races. DF1 Racing and Hendricks Motorsports are dominating this EuroNASCAR Esports Series so far. I think it's very interesting to have those young guys at front. I think they are already a little bit experienced in sim racing and stuff like that, so they have a natural advantage against the other guys who started sim racing with this series. But when you think about the real championship points on the line, DF1 Racing, Hendricks Motorsports at the front of this championship, this might be interesting also for the wheel championship when we go back racing with the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series soon.
Well, if you look at the times that are sitting there on the left-hand side of your screen, remember, this is qualifying, and then we split the entrance that we've got into 3 individual heats. So at the moment, Andre Castro is fastest in qualifying. He would go to pole position for heat number 1. Lasse Sorensen, who's second quickest, would go to pole position for heat number 2. And Tobias Dallenhauer, who is third quickest, would go to pole position for heat number 3, which means that Jeffrey Ruffin, who is 4th, would line up on the outside of the front row of the grid for heat number 1, Hazemans in heat number 2, Delso in heat number 3, and so on. It cascades down from there. When we get to each individual heat, Andre, we're going to have about 17 or 18 cars in each one of the heats, but it's only the top 10 that go through to the main race. The rest all get one more chance, don't they, to fight it out in what is always a hugely entertaining last chance qualification race. So there's confirmation of the qualifying results. Andre Castro, quickest for DF1 Racing. Lasse Sorensen, his teammate, second quickest. Tobias Dallenhauer, Jeffrey Ruffin, and Loris Hazemans make it Hendricks 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with Juliel Stelso for RDV Competition, the former EuroNASCAR 2 champion, 6th quickest. Andreas Jochumsen for DF1 puts another one of their cars inside the top 10. He's there in 7th place. Alan Day was 8th. Bavo Fallon was 9th. And Alessandro Brigatti completes the top 10. Guillaume de Flandre, Mirin Kremers, Arix Fontana, and Leonardo Colavita was 14th, head of Simon Palat, who was 15th, and so on. It carries on down from there. A few quicker drivers, a bit further down than I would have thought. So the key is get through your heat cleanly, safely, make sure you're in the top 10. And that's what we've continually seen some of these drivers do, Andre.
Yes, we've talked about the track and the conditions before the broadcasting, you and me, Mark. And I told you, it's a very tricky track. You have to be in the right rhythm. You have to be in a good shape, very concentrated to get those 13, 12 corners. I don't know exactly. iRacing
12
says
it is,
13.
on the configuration we're in,
I think it's 12, yes. You have to be very concentrated. And the key part is the transition from the road course to the Speedway 1 corner that we're doing it as a right-hander. You have to shift the gears there, and you have a little bit of wheel spin. And when you don't be very sensitive to the throttle there, you're going to have this snap oversteer. So you have to be very careful on the speedway turns. You have to be very precise and concentrated on the road course part. So I think it's going to be a tricky race, and those guys who have the best shape of concentrating and consistency will be the guys at front here today.
So there we go. You can see the grid that's on the left-hand side of your screen. Andre Castro sits on pole position. Jeffrey Ruffin alongside. Andreas Jochumsen on row number 2 with Alessandro Brigatti and Davide Dallara and Alan Muscaron, I think, are there on the 3rd row of the grid. One driver who I've been particularly impressed with his qualifying, and he's one of the track marshals from Valencia that's driving the Valencia Speedway car in this one, the Circuit Ricardo Tormo Ford Zilla car, and that is Claudio Sabatini, who is one of their track marshals. If you notice, he's on the 4th row of the grid. He qualified 7th quickest, one of our Orange Army. We talk about wanting to get back motor racing, but as a track marshal, without them, Andre, we can't go motor racing anyway.
Excuse me, I haven't heard the question right now.
Oh, that's okay. I was talking about Claudio Sabatini, who drives the Circuit Ricardo Tormo Ford Zilla Ford. We talk about wanting to go back racing. Here's one of the track marshals at Circuit Ricardo Tormo. Without them, we can't go racing at all.
Absolutely right. Those guys are passionate for motorsports. I bet a lot of them would be racing drivers by themselves if they have the opportunities, but they're living motor racing by doing their job as a track marshal. Everybody, the fans, the teams, the drivers, everybody should respect those guys because they're doing it in their free time. They don't get any big money for it. They're doing it because they love motor racing. So they're a big part, and without track marshals, we would not have any race on that spread. So a big thank you to all track marshals around the world for doing this phenomenal job.
Absolutely, corner workers as are known in America. What an opportunity for Claudio Sabatini to rub shoulders with some of EuroNASCAR's elite. So they are on their rolling lap. This is a 10-minute race. Once we get the 10 minutes out of the way, we'll grab a quick word with the top 3 before we then very quickly, quick word with the winner at least, before we then very quickly move on to heat number 2 and heat number 3. All of those are 10 minutes long. Even the last chance qualifying race is 10 minutes long. The main race, which will contain 36 drivers, 10 from each heat, plus the 6 out of the last chance qualifier. That will be a 30-minute affair and will carry maximum championship points for whoever wins that one. There's no championship points for the heats. So the cars are just making their way up onto that back section of the circuit that Andre was talking about, where at full speed it's very, very easy to get the car spinning its wheels, and you just need to contain your enthusiasm to plant your foot into the footwell of the car, and away we go for the first heat. Andre Castro gets a good run on Jeffrey Ruffin as they head over the start finish line. There's contact further back, and already there's a couple of cars around by the look of things. I have a feeling that Alessio Bacci was one of those that got tangled up. Andre Castro leads the pack from Jeffrey Ruffin in 2nd place, and Alessandro Brigatti is sitting there in 3rd at the moment. It's Andreas Jochumsen in 4th as we go on board with the 5th place car, Alex Fontana for 42 Racing, looking at the car that lies ahead. Andre Jochumsen, they're all safely through the first couple of corners. The Italian looking forward to the Swedish driver that lies ahead of him, and now we're onto that infield section as they head round through turns numbers 3, 4 and 5, which just continually seem to sweep, Andre, don't they? The first part of the circuit through turns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 all blend together before they finally head down this straight out of turn number 6 and down towards the back turn 7.
Yes, right. And that's what I told you. It was this technical section on the track. You have to be very careful. I think it's very hard to pass here. I know a lot of drivers tell that about every track on the world, but I think this track in particular is very hard to overtake an opponent. You have seen it with Jeffrey Ruffin now. He tried to overtake Andre Castro, but it didn't work out. So now they're going back to the speedway part. I love the Indy 500 and the Brickyard NASCAR races here. And it's a little bit strange to see the cars going the right-handed turn on that part.
It is, yeah. It's all that Speedway 1 is the final corner, really, here on the road course, but it works. Built in 2000 for Formula 1, of course, this infield section. Andre Castro still continuing to lead the race at this stage. He has had a heat win, has Andre Castro. He took one of those both at Daytona on the road course at the prologue, and he took one at Brands Hatch as well. Those are his 2 wins so far, both coming in heats. Alex Fontana has got his hands rather full. He's got Claudio Sabatini, the track marshal from Valencia, ahead of him at the moment, and it looks as though Ruben Garcia has also managed to sneak through there and ahead of Alex Fontana, who is tumbling down through the order with a potential problem, I fear, for that car, but some of the fighting on further down through the order is fantastic, and it includes a couple of drivers we would have thought to seen a little bit further up. Advek Dioda, the Indian, is only down in 10th position, car number 31, and down in 11th place is the Swiss driver who was runner-up in EuroNASCAR 2 last year. Number 18, Giorgio Maggi, is only just ahead of this car here, Francisco Caristo, that we look at, who sits down there in 12th place. So there's some cars that are not quite where I would have thought they ought to be, and that now includes Alex Fontana, who has tumbled down through the order to 15th position, Andre. So tumbled all the way down through the order, back to the race leader. Andre Castro still continuing to lead. He had just under half a second between himself and Jeffrey Ruffin last time through. The American leads, but sitting in second place is the crew chief for the number 7 Hendricks Motorsport car. Races himself though, Jeffrey, both in esports, and has done a fair chunk of racing on the ovals over in mainland Europe. Great fight going on for 3rd and 4th place. Alessandro Brigatti under pressure from Andreas Jochumsen. At the moment though, the Dane can't find a way through and ahead of the Italian, so he's just got to concentrate his efforts and see whether he can squeeze his Chevy ahead of the similar car that lies ahead. These start to build again now as they start to head round through the final couple of corners, and then can start to accelerate their way down that big long straight once more. Already 4 minutes into this race, and now Jochumsen is having a quick look at Alessandro Brigatti. He's got the nose up the inside, but he's going to be able to squeeze his way through as they head onto the straight. So that is a change to 3rd and 4th place. You said it wasn't easy to overtake there, but he's got the car position correctly, Andre, and then after that then there was not a great deal that Brigatti could do to close the door.
Yeah, right. Yes, it was a perfect maneuver. You have to be very precise, like I told you, and you have to be very cautious, and I think that did a very good job here in this position. I think we're going to have a great battle for the 10th place. Right, still in 10th, Giorgio Maggi is behind him, and I think Maggi will try to do everything to close that gap, because the 10th place is the last secure spot for the main race to get championship points. So Maggi out of the competition right now. When he stays in 11th, he has to go through last chance qualifier. I think that is not a position a runner-up in the EuroNASCAR 2 championship wants to be.
No, he won't be happy with that, but I'll tell you who will be happy, and that's the driver that's there in 7th place at the moment, our track marshal from Ricardo Tormo, Claudio Sabatini, doing fantastic things. He is keeping a 2 times Mexican NASCAR champion behind him at the moment. Ruben Garcia Jr. is behind Claudio Sabatini. There's something for him to dine out on at the end of this evening. Sabatini's behind this car here, Davide Dallara, who sits there in 6th position. Davide Dallara is trying to close up on car number 299, which is Alan Muscaron, who is the reigning EuroNASCAR club champion from last year. Did a bit of karting prior to that. Fontana's dropped through the order to 15th. Has seen him climb back up now to 11th. So this is the fight that you were talking about. Advek Dioda running wide, coming out at turn number 6. That is going to allow Alex Fontana to draw himself alongside. Dioda has the inside line for the next corner, which is a left-hander. The Ford and the Chevy side by side. Who's got the inside line? It's Dioda. Can he hang on to it? Yes, he can on the way into the corner, but as they now come out of turn number 8 and up towards turn number 9, he's having to work overtime here to hold up Alex Fontana. Giorgio Maggi is queuing up as well, and Scott Jeffs is the blue car with the white stripe that sits behind. So this, well picked out, is a great fight. 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th positions, Andre.
Yes, right, and this is the fight for the last spot for the moment. Advek Dioda is under pressure right now. Different, very strong drivers behind him, just waiting for a single mistake by the Indian driver. And now we have a crash there. Who was the guy?
Alex Fontana.
Well, Alex Fontana, yes. And that's what I wanted to say. One single mistake and everything's over for you. And now Advait Deodat with a big moment. He's sliding into the grass, and this could be the chance for Giorgio Maggi right now.
It could be if Giorgio Maggi gets on the throttle low, but he's left the door open and Scott Jeffs is now trying to feed his way through, but it's Deodat who's sideways heading through the next corner. The tail end of the Cal Racing Chevy does not want to play ball, and now it's nearly 3 wide heading up to the next corner. Contact between Scott Jeffs and Advait Deodat, pitches Advait Deodat round into a spin. Onto the brakes goes Giorgio Maggi to try and avoid the contact. Well, the inevitable was going to happen there. 4 cars all busy squabbling away for the final place to automatically get through into the main race, and at the moment that has now, with 3 minutes to go, gone the way of that number 90 car for Brax Racing. The British driver Scott Jeffs is now up into 10th position. Saw him racing in both EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2 last year. He might be in 10th for the moment, but Alex Fontana is hugely keen to try and pick his way back up through the order. He's the test driver for 42 Racing, back towards 6th and 7th places. This is Davide Dallara, who is busy squabbling away with the car that's ahead of him, actually. So it's for what will be 5th and 6th places. It's Alan Muscaron that's ahead. Davide Dallara sitting there in 6th place. Doesn't matter where you look, close battles are on, and we have seen this week after week after week, and that is probably why we've seen 4 different main race winners out of the 4 races that we've had so far, if you include the prologue event at Daytona. Muscaron under pressure. Davide Dallara almost got himself alongside there, but couldn't quite make it stick. So the Not Only Motorsport Chevy has to tuck back behind again into 6th position, and if he watches in his mirrors, he's got the Circuit Ricardo Tormo Fordzilla Ford of Claudio Sabatini right behind him at this stage. Sabatini, what a debut in the series he's having.
Yes, just incredible to be a rookie in this series with this high level of competition, and then being able to get into the top 10 of the first heat you ever driven in those cars at that track in this series is just phenomenal. And I think he's really feeling like a real race car driver right now, not negative, not in a negative way, not just the guy standing there with the flag. So I think being part of the action right now in this case in the virtual world is something very special for him, and I would love to see him in the main race.
I would love to see him through into the main race. I'm guessing he does a fair amount of esports. Well, he is certainly proving that he is more than a match for some of the very experienced both esport drivers in this field and the NASCAR drivers as well. Alan Muscaron in 5th place heads back around the circuit. Here's Giorgio Maggi now. Now, he was the runner-up in the EuroNASCAR 2 championship last year. Remember, he had to dive on the brakes to avoid making contact with Advait Deodat when he was pitched into a spin, but Giorgio Maggi is not heading through into an automatic qualification spot here with 30 seconds to go. He is looking as though he may well be heading into the last chance qualifying race. Vladimir Choitsis going well as well. He recently had a birthday last week. Choitsis, he's been a busy guy e-racing, races for Race Art Alex Caffey. Let's just have a quick look what we can look back at here. Francesco Garisto heading up towards turn number 1, and yeah, the Italian just loses the tail end of the Ford as he pitches it into the corner, sort of a half spin, and then as he rejoins, contact was made there, and it looks as though that was Alan Muscaron and Claudio Sabatini that sort of got tangled up whilst they were trying to avoid the spinning car. So that's shuffled the order again once more. It now means that Claudio Sabatini is 7th. Ruben Garcia there that we are looking at is in 8th place, and Ruben Garcia is under pressure from the 9th place car, the black car with the orange numbers down the side of it, Davide Dallara. But the 10 minutes have now elapsed, which means that Andre Castro, who still continues to lead, by the way, by nearly 0.8 of a second, is on course for another victory by the look of things, and that would mean that is 3 heat victories for him. If we include the prologue, we jump back on board with Davide Dallara. The one thing he won't want to do is make a mistake as he sits there in 9th place in automatic qualification to head straight through into the main race. The checkered flag's already been taken by Andre Castro. Jeffrey Ruffin finishes in 2nd place. Andreas Jochumsen comes through and finishes in 3rd place, with Alessandro Bugatti in 4th, Alan Muscaron in 5th. Vladimir Choitsis, what a run from him. He finishes in 6th place. That's his best heat finish, I think, so far. Claudio Sabatini, hats off to our track marshal from Circuit Ricardo Tormo. He is automatically through into the main race, as is that car there, Ruben Garcia Jr. And then for the final couple of places, it is Davide Dallara and Scott Jeffs up finish in 9th and 10th position. Poor old Giorgio Maggi is going to have to fight it out in the last chance qualification race. So Andre Castro has done here on the Indianapolis road course exactly what he did on the Daytona road course for our prologue event, and the same as he did at Brands Hatch as well. He has won his heat. He is one of the winners in the main race as well. He won the main race on the Daytona road course. There was a bit of a bump and run there on the final lap to grab that victory, which didn't impress the man who was leading at the time, which was Alan Day. But Andre Castro has started this evening as he would want to continue, Andre, with a win. Can he back it up with another win in the main race? We'll find out, won't we?
Yes, he's one of the favorite drivers here. He's so consistent during the whole season. He has the right aggression. He has the abilities to drive one of those NASCAR Cup cars in a simulation. And we had a big update the last weeks. The tire model was a little bit improved. The damage model was improved. There were several different little details that were improved by iRacing. That's why we weren't able to race last week. But with all those improvements, it also meant that the drivers had to adapt to the new style because, of course, it changed the cars a lot. And I think Andre Castro, with his experience in iRacing, he's one of those guys after one of those big major updates to adopt very, very fast to it. And I think this could also be a very important factor here tonight. Who's adopting in the best way with the new setup, with the new updates, and who's going to bring this advantage in the main race to a good result in the end.
So there's confirmation of the results. Then Andre Castro grabs the win from Jeffrey Ruffin and Andreas Jochensson. Alessandro Bugatti, Alan Muscaron, Vladimir Choitsis, Claudio Sabatini, Ruben Garcia, Davide Delara, and Scott Jeffs are the 10 that automatically go through. Thereafter, everybody has one further opportunity in the last chance qualification race. Joining us in live commentary is the winner of that heat, Andre Castro. Congratulations. That's now what, if we include the prologue event, 3 heat wins for you now. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. That was my first pole, and I think this whole series too. So that was really satisfying to pull off. Just had a real good lap, and and the heat just kept focused and kept my eyes out front because Jeffrey tried a couple of moves, but I just had to keep focusing, and eventually I think I was a little bit better on the tires than he was, and so I'm excited for the final.
You come fourth into the championship standings here this evening, having claimed third overall at Brands Hatch. You were, sixth overall at Zandvoort last time out. Watkins Glen having been a difficult race for many, many people with the big one that happened. So a good haul of points will get you right in there as we head towards the semi-finals and double points for the next few races. Yeah,
it's going to be really important to perform in the next 3 because it's going to be double points. So that's going to be, especially even the prize for winning, I think is like, you get like 10 points over second place with double points, so that's going to be really important and going to be way more vital to win races. But every race is kind of the same, that you try your best, and I'm going to focus really hard for 30 minutes later on and see what we can do.
What's the concertina effect like here when you do the charge up towards turn number 1, and of course it's all quite technical all the way through to turn number 6?
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, I think you've seen in real life, you have IndyCar races and Formula 1 races here where there's a lot of accidents in turn 1 and turn 2 because guys don't give each other enough room for that left-hander right after the first turn. So, I'm sure it's tough, but that's another reason, I really wanted to start on pole. And starting on pole, it's not foolproof. Things can still happen, but I feel like I'm giving myself a much bigger chance of getting through turn 1 unscathed.
We'll let you get some rest and look forward to hopefully chatting to you after the main race. Well done, Andre.
Thank you, Mark.
There we go. So there's Andre Castro. Perfect timing as well because the cars are just heading up towards the start-finish line. Lassie Sorensen starts on pole with Loris Hazemans alongside. So it's our 2 reigning EuroNASCAR champions. It's the EuroNASCAR 2 champion that sits on pole position. The reigning EuroNASCAR Pro champion that sits alongside 2 times former champion Alan Day on row number 2 with Guillaume de Flandre for company as the cars see the red lights come on. The man on the gantry waves the green flag and away we go. It looks though it's a good start from Lassie Sorensen for the lead of the race. Alan Day is trying to haul himself alongside Loris Hazemans, but they break side by side for the lead of the race up towards turn number 1 for the first time. Sorensen has the inside line for the first corner. Hazemans has it for the second. Sorensen will have it for the third and the fourth corner. And then the pendulum swings back in favour of Loris Hazemans. So if he can braid it out around the outside, he might stand half a chance. But now he needs to concentrate his efforts on trying to keep double former champion Alan Day sitting behind, who is desperate to haul his way up through the points, having missed the previous round at Zandvoort a few weeks ago. But Lasse Sorensen leads the race, almost contact there between Hazeman's, the tail end of his car, and the front end of the PK Car Sport Chevy of Alan Day. But the top three all absolutely together. Guillaume de Flandre still sits there in fourth position, and fifth at the moment is going to be car number 208, which is going to be Leonardo Colavita, who is the American-based Italian nowadays, but Loris Hazeman's settling himself down into second position. You said earlier on this evening that you look at the likes of Loris Hazeman's and Alan Day. You know, Alan's had a couple of heat wins, but he's not had a main race win, and Loris Hazeman's, I think, is yet to take a victory in whether it be a heat or the main race so far this year.
Yes, we have a lot of big names that are doing very, very well with their consistency, getting a lot of top threes, top fives, but there's still lack of winning away. So Sorensen, Hazeman's, they all should be in victory lane someday in the virtual world. They're all so incredibly fast. So I think, yeah, the chances are high that we see the fifth winner today, including the prologue. This would be great for the whole championship. We see this competition is so tight. We have a lot of guys capable of winning. I said it before. And it's just phenomenal how those guys adopting being real race car drivers. And now, due to the forced break, they are doing very, very well in the virtual world as well.
They certainly are, yeah. We just saw a mistake there for Nave Talla, who I think got a little bit late on the brakes, and then there was a secondary bit of contact which pitched him into a spin. We're now looking at Brian Crowles running car number 378, a team member with Brax Racing. Brian, who is another one of those drivers we've seen at the wheel of his Ford go really well throughout the course of this year. Ben Creaner has made good progress at the wheel of his car. He started in 8th place, the 17-year-old Scotsman, and is now up into 6th position. But the one driver who's gained more places than anybody, former member of the EuroNASCAR media team, Max Palumbo, is up 5 places, having started 18th. He's up to 13th position, Andre.
Ah, yes, the Italian giant Max Palumbo. Was great to work with him. He has now different stuff to do in motorsports, so it's great to see him back in the virtual world. He's still the press officer of Solaris Motorsports. That's why he's driving the 312 car. And Max is a great guy in real life, and he's also a passionate race car driver in the virtual world. I've seen his rig at home. He's really, really professional equipped. So let's see if he's as fast as his equipment.
Mistake there from Guillaume de Flandre has allowed Leonardo Colavita and almost Ben Creaner to squeeze his way through, but de Flandre just gets the car back on the tarmac and closes off any attack from Ben Creaner. So that's 3 now, fighting for 5th, 6th and 7th place. De Flandre, Ben Creaner and Brian Crowles that sits behind. So they turn their way through what is the next long sweeping left-hander. Ben Creaner now coming under attack from Brian Crowles. If you're not familiar with the numbering of the cars, well, those cars numbered 0 to 99 are for drivers that race in EuroNASCAR Pro. Numbers 100 to 199, those that race in EuroNASCAR 2. Cars that are in the 200s are for EuroNASCAR Club Challenge drivers. That used to be known as Elite Cup. As Ben Creaner gets tagged by Brian Crowles and gets spun around. That was at turn number 7, I think that was, or 8, where the contact was made. So Ben Creaner's got work to do, and that's allowed Chris Lehman now to work his way through. He runs a car that is number 300, as does the car he just managed to get by as well, Brian Crowles. They are therefore EuroNASCAR team members, and cars that run in the 400s are the EuroNASCAR circuits, our guests and the team members of the FJ All-Stars team. So that gives you an idea as to how the numbering works. Chris Lehman under enormous pressure from Brian Crowles, and Chris is another driver that you know very well with the media work that he does, Andre.
Yes, right. He's the media guy for Markus Ditt Motorsports. He's familiar with racing. He did karting. He's new to the virtual world, indeed. So we see that he's incredibly fast. So maybe put him in a wheel car someday as well, because I think he got his system 1 or 2 weeks ago. So very nice and interesting development on his side. And yeah, he's the media guy from Markus Ditt Motorsport, doing a good job. Just check out all the team's social media pages. You see they have good guys in their ranks that are doing a tremendous job to get the EuroNASCAR thing, the whole adventure, to the fans as close as possible.
And I think that's the thing I've liked about the EuroNASCAR Esports Series, in conjunction with iRacing, with support from i.cin.com and Sim Racing League TV, is that it brings the teams together, the media together, the drivers together, and it really has been, I think, quite unique in terms of the esports series that are out there. Look at the fight that's still going on, though, for second and third position. Lasse Sorensen has just checked out a little bit now, so he is just managing to pull away from this car here. Loris Haseman's at the wheel of the Hendricks Ford. He is the highest driver in the championship standings that hasn't had a win as yet, Loris Haseman. He sits second on the road. He's third in the standings coming into this race, having had a third, a fourth and a fifth position. Has his 3 points scoring finishes, has Loris Haseman's, but that elusive win is still as yet to come. Here's Brian Crowles again. Now he's having a little nibble at Gordon Barnes, and it looks as though he might just get it on the exit of this next corner, because the next corner that's coming up is a right-hander again, which means that Brian Crowles has the inside line. Gordon Barnes, I think, just made a little bit of contact there. I just saw the front of his car leap into the air very briefly on my screen, so there might have been the lightest touch of contact between the pair of them, but looks as though the car of Brian Crowles has now gone through, has taken up the position. So the Belgian Brax Racing brings the Ford up into 6th position. Gordon Barnes down into 7th. He started 10th anyway, so it's still a good run from him. Let's just have a quick look. Brian Crowles gets a really, really good run coming round through that latter part of the circuit. Back to Aurélien Dillier, and he gets very sideways. Big accident, and unfortunately takes out what is Jakob Krafek at the wheel of the Autodrome Most show car. Another one of our circuit representatives there. So that's 2 cars that tangled up with each other. And that was exactly at that part of the circuit that you were talking about, Andre, where you're hard on the gas, you're shifting up through the gears, and you've got the transition from the road course to the banked oval.
Yes, right. You have to be very, very sensitive there. And Jakob Krafek, yeah, of course, you have pressure in the race. You want to be very fast. You don't want to be overtaken. So you take the risk, and yeah, that didn't play out. But take a look at 10th place. There's Navetalo back in the competition to get to the main race.
He's going beautifully well, is Navetalo, working his way up through the order, and he is now in the automatic qualification places again. Now is Navetalo. He's managed to haul himself up into 10th position, ahead of Luca Caniore, who is one of the leading lights behind Cal Racing, who again are going to be another very busy team in the championship as and when we get it going. He's the team manager for Cal Racing, and has done a fair chunk of esports racing with us over the course of the last few weeks. But Navetalo, what a good charge back up through the field. Back to Brian Crowles, who still sits there in 6th position. Gordon Barnes, again, is giving him a thing or two to think about. The two of them have been remarkably evenly matched over the course of this race so far, but there's only another, a minute and a quarter to go before the checkered flag will fall. So time is running out, but as we said earlier on, the most important thing is get yourself inside the top 10. As long as you're inside the top 10, that is automatic qualification. And one driver that surprises me that he is outside of the top 10 and not heading towards that automatic qualification is Vittorio Garelli, who is back with us again. Vittorio, I'm guessing, Andre, maybe not a lot of esports experience, because he's a fantastically quick driver and has been hugely successful in his career. But in the NASCAR Esports Series, he just seems to have struggled a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. He won the only oval race in 2019 at Raceway Venray in the Netherlands. He did a tremendous job there, but I think that shows us that the transition from real racing to the virtual world is not as easy as it seems. Of course, there are some things that are very close to each other, but there are also differences between real racing and simulators. In simulators, you have all the feedback in the wheels and the pedals. In the real world, you have also the feeling of the whole car, the G-forces on your body. All of this is not part of a simulator racing, and that's why some real drivers may struggle a little bit being race car drivers in the virtual world. So I guess that Vittorio Garelli is one of those guys who is definitely a better driver in the real world, because he's doing a lot of stuff because of his feelings, and those feelings are still not there in the sim race.
We're nearly at the end of the race now as well. Out of turn 11, up towards turn number 12 comes Lasse Sorensen, Loris Haseman's and Alan Day. The top three looking equidistantly spread at this stage, but the 10 minutes has clicked through. It does look as though Lasse Sorensen is on for another heat win here. Lasse Sorensen, he is a driver who, in fact, it will be his first heat win, Lasse Sorensen. He claimed victory in the last chance race at Brands Hatch, but he's not had a heat win so far this year. Well, he has now because he's taken the checkered flag. Loris Hazeman's in second place, Alan Day in third, Colavita and De Flandre fourth and fifth. Brian Crowles comes through and finishes in sixth position. Did pull away from Gordon Barnes in the closing stages of that one. Chris Lehman is automatically through in eighth place. Ben Creaner is ninth, and Navi Talor might have sort of made a brief mistake in the braking for turn number one and had a part spin as well, but that is a good charge for the Israeli driver for Solaris Motorsport back up through the order to grab the last automatic qualification place. So Lasse Sorensen has done what he has failed to do at the prologue event at Daytona, at Brands Hatch, at Watkins Glen, or at Zandvoort. He has finally won a heat.
Yes, finally. And I think the DF1 crew is celebrating at home right now. We had Norbert Walchhofer a little bit earlier in this broadcast, and they're taking this sim racing stuff very, very seriously because it's about real championship points, and having Lasse Sorensen not only leading the championship, now also winning a heat race is something very special for the Tigers from Austria.
Yeah, they'll be hugely pleased with that. We'll be able to grab a word with Lasse very shortly. I would have thought he will come and join us in the commentary box, but he'll be as pleased as punch with that one. We'll head towards heat number 3 very, very shortly. We'll get confirmation of the results as well for heat number 2 coming up. And there they are. Lasse Sorensen claims the win for DF1 Racing, and Hendricks Motorsport, Loris Hazemans was second. Alan Day was in third position with Leonardo Colavita in fourth. Guillaume de Flandre was in fifth, and Brian Crowles makes it 6 different teams out of the top 6, and in fact even in 7th place, that's another new team as well. Marco Steep, 7 different teams inside the top 7. Gordon Barnes is in 7th place, Chris Lehman is in 8th place, Ben Creaner 9th, and Navi Talor confirmation finishes in the top 10. Vittorio Garelli, Luca Caniore, Max Palumbo, Roy Hendricks, Yevgeny Sokolovsky, Ariana Cassidy, Aurelien Dillier and Jakob Krafek will all have to fight it out in the last chance qualification race, which will be coming up very, very shortly. So we are just hopefully awaiting Lasse Sorensen to come and chat to us. Heat 3 heads off on its formation lap in the meantime. One of the drivers you picked out earlier on, starting on pole position for this one, Tobias Dallenhauer, sits there on pole position. Ulysse Delceau alongside. Tobias Dallenhauer did take a heat win, didn't he, last time out? Heat number 2 he claimed at Zandvoort, Andre.
Yes, right. Tobias Dallenhauer is one of those fast sim racers. A very nice guy. He's still waiting for his real world EuroNASCAR debut. He's very familiar with GT racing and race cars like this, but he immediately fell in love when he drove one of those EuroNASCAR cars during the recruitment days. And I think he's getting more and more nervous because he's very nice, very good, very fast during the virtual series, but then there's a little bit of pressure to be fast in the real world as well. He's in the championship winning Carl Hendricks Motorsport, so I think he's a guy we have to take a look at in the 2020 season when we go back racing, and he's still one of those favorites to win the EuroNASCAR Esports Series.
We got one driver that has come to join us in live commentary. Wasn't expecting him, but Brian Crowles has come to join us in the commentary. Brian, that was a really, really good run. You were having a great fight there with Gordon Barnes.
Yeah, it was really close. It was slippier than I thought it was going to be during the race, so it was definitely a fight keeping him behind, yeah.
It's one of those circuits, you know, as we've been talking to Andre, it's technical in some areas, it's very fast in others, but the transition up from the road course onto the banking is a very difficult part of the track. You've mastered it.
Yeah, that's where we've also been putting in our time with the setup, trying to make it a bit easier to go through there, because in the beginning it would just try and over-rotate on you, and it wasn't going to be much fun for everyone just being in the walls, so we tried to master that corner, as you said.
And a very last quick question, because the cars are about to start the race. 6th position at Brands Hatch, your best result of the season. Can you better that this evening?
Yeah, this evening, no. I'm betting myself to the Charlotte and Zolder. That's where I'm aiming for.
They're the ones that you've got ticked off, are they? They're the ones you're looking forward to?
Yep.
Good luck for the rest of the evening, Brian. Thanks for joining us in commentary. The race gets underway, and it is Tobias Dallenhauer that leads the charge up towards turn number 1. Bavo Fallon with a good start. He's going to slot himself into 3rd place because Ulysse Delso should do enough to hang on to 2nd. Everybody's safely onto the brakes. Gets tight a little bit further back. There's contact, and that looks as though it was Sebastian Bleeky-Molen that got tagged into a spin. Whether he managed to hang on to it, couldn't quite see, but everybody else, I think, largely safely through turn number 1. Already, though, starting to open up a gap is Tobias Dallenhauer from Ulysse Delso. Marin Kramer's sitting there in 3rd place, and it's going to be Bavo Fallon, Simon Palat and Justin Kuntz that complete the top 6 as things currently stand. As we look at Simon Palat's very distinctively liveried car there, orange at the front, fading to yellow and green at the tail end, looking to see whether he can apply the pressure in the early stages to Bavo Fallon. But for the moment, clean start to the race, and I can see right at the back of that long shot that Sebastian Bleeky-Molen, despite the half spin and dropping to 16th place, managed to climb back up to 14th position. One other driver has come as to join us in commentary, and I'll bring him in straight away because he's a familiar name to EuroNASCAR, but is nowadays concentrating his efforts in the Xfinity Series. Myatt Snyder joins us in commentary. Myatt, it's great to have you alongside us this evening.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be here, great to catch up with everybody. I know things are probably a little bit different racing-wise across the pond, but yeah, glad to catch up.
Yeah, I suppose that at least now in America, albeit behind closed doors, you're racing. You know, we've seen you have a couple of top 10s in the Xfinity Series so far, including 5th a couple of races ago from 22nd on the grid at Bristol. That must have put a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely. Bristol was a real fun one. You know, it's always a good race when I can get into the car with the RCR guys and have Tax Slayer on board, and so. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Bristol. It's one of the places that I struggled with in a truck. So to go there and run really well in an Xfinity car really gave me some confidence, and it felt great to do that. So yeah, and I think we probably should have had an even better run this past weekend at Atlanta. I probably should have finished top 8, but we had a loose right rear wheel on the last pit stop. So that finished today. But we've been running really good in both cars, so I'm really happy with how we've been doing this year.
We've seen you out predominantly in the number 21 Chevy for Richard Childress Racing, the Tax Slayer Chevy, as you were talking about. We've also seen you out, 3 runs out with RSS Racing in the number 93 Chevy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of how I'm going to be running a lot of my races for a while now. I've got to basically run a lot of the year, and the 93 car. I've only got officially right now Martinsville and Phoenix in schedule for the RCR car again. So yeah, we're not quite full time yet, but I think we're working on it, and we may be getting close. So yeah, looking for a special announcement Friday, guys.
The performances are there, the speeds are there. Are you out at Homestead next?
Yeah, I'm at Homestead next, and it's a really fun racetrack. You know, progressive banked 1.5 miles. Unfortunately, it's not our championship race this year, but hopefully that decision can be reversed.
Well, thanks for joining us, Mike. It's great to have you back in, looking in on your own NASCAR. And don't be a stranger. Do keep looking in on us from time to time. And it'd be great to see you back out on the grid, because particularly, you know, when we had Venray last year, you were 2nd overall at Venray, your best result of the season. It could have been a trip to victory lane for you. It was so close, wasn't it?
Yeah, you know, I'm still a little bit hung up about that. But you know, maybe sometime I can come back and.
We'd have you back anytime at all. There we go, Myatt Snyder. Thanks for joining us in commentary, Myatt. All the best for the rest of the season in Xfinity.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There we go, Myatt Snyder. Always good to have a chat to Myatt Snyder. The racing continues in the final heat, and we are now looking at what is the fight between Justin Kuntz, who has just got himself up into 5th place, and Simon Palat, who has now dropped down into 6th position. Ulysse Delso, however, in 2nd place, last time through, set the fastest lap of the race. He was into the 1 minute 29, 1 minute 29.95. I'm not sure how that compares to what you were doing around here, Andre, but that to me looks as though that's a quick lap there from the former EuroNASCAR 2 champion.
Oh, yes, right. I think this is a very nice heat, and I think today we saw 3 very, very good races. Not a lot of crashing. We have had other races in this series before. Everybody is very concentrated, very calm. Nobody is taking too much risks, and we're seeing great battles. Everybody is doing a very great job. And Tobias Dallenhauer at front, he's so fast, but a little saw. He's closing in, I think. He's closing the gap to Tobias, and I think we will have a nice fight for the first position. It's around 4 minutes and 30 seconds right now in this race, so it's going to be a very interesting second half of the race. But I want to say something about our guest. First of all, Brian Crowles, who was here. He talked about the setups. We are using a fixed setup in this series, and he's the coordinator of building those setups. So all of the drivers, they come together on practice servers and they discuss how the setup should be. It's not about having a very fast setup, it's about having a stable, drivable setup for everybody. So Brian Crowles is the guy leading this group, being responsible for building one of those very complicated iRacing setups. When you see all the stuff you can configure, it's crazy. And to Snyder, I want to say, yes, he was second in Venray, but I think more interesting or more exciting were his practicing laps on the half-mile oval in the rain.
Yeah, we should have thrown to a VT of that earlier, but I forgot. So we'll pick up on that one later on. We'll get Stefano to throw to it while we're waiting for some drivers to join us in the commentary. My fault, that one. Maren Kramers, I had spotted that mistake. Maren Kramers in third position, under pressure from Bavo Fallon. So both of these drivers will just want to make sure they don't trip over each other. Feed Vict Racing is who we see Maren Kramers driving for. Bavo Fallon drives for PK Car Sport and sits there in fourth position. Justin Kuntz safely in fifth place now, ahead of Simon Palat, who's there in sixth place. Here's a quick replay of Fabio Spatafore. What does he do at the wheel of the Not Only Motorsport Chevy? The answer is just briefly touches the grass. The car swings from one side to the other, and then lots of arm twirling to try and keep it under control. Still loses the tail end of it. And as we've seen, and Andre has alluded to it, it is a technical circuit, and just that one small wheel put on the grass at the wrong time, particularly when you're applying the throttle or you get the transition from the loading of one side of the car to the other as you go from a left-hander to a right-hander, was enough just to catch out Spatafore there. We're looking at Maren Kramers for Speedway Racing, looking back at Bavo Fallon, who sits there in fourth position. The gap between these two is just under half a second at this stage, but here we go. Look at the bottom right hand corner, you can see the gap closing as Bavo Fallon picks up the slipstream. The gap that was nearly half a second is down to 0.3 by the time they get towards the braking area for turn number one. There are 2 minutes to go. Tobias Bauernhauer is looking good here for potentially another heat win. And here is the fight for the final automatic qualification place. Now remember, Sebastian Bleekie-Molen had a half spin in the race earlier on. Well, he has now worked his way through right up into contention with Philippe Biresville, who is a young kart racer from Hockenheim who makes a mistake and is all over the grass at turn number one. So from an automatic qualification place, that small mistake out braking himself up towards turn number one has now allowed Sebastian Bleekie-Molen to go through into the final automatic qualification place. Biresville is down into 11th position and is now starting to come under pressure from Santu Vauxadoria, who is not that far behind him at the wheel of the number 48 car. So time ticking away. Philippe Biresville, I don't think Andre is going to have enough time to catch up from that mistake that he made.
I don't think so. I think he did another mistake. It were two mistakes, and now the time is running up. So I think he has to fight his way through the last chance qualifier. Everybody has got the chance to get into the main race, but you have to be in the top 6. I think this will be one of those thrilling and a little bit chaotic races we've seen in the past in this series. But Philippe Biresville, we see he's fast, he's able to be in the top 10, but he has to get rid of those small mistakes. Then he could be one of those drivers being in the main race from the very first second.
Simon Palat has caught back up with Justin Kuntz and has just tried to outbrake himself up at turn number 1 all over the grass, which means that Justin Kuntz will be able to go back through into 5th position. So that was all rather close, but Simon Palat now has put himself under pressure from 3 times former runner-up in the EuroNASCAR Pro Series, Fred Gabion, who sits behind. But Fred Gabion is also coming under pressure from the number 23 car in the hands of the Finnish driver who won the Challenger Trophy in the EuroNASCAR last year, that being Henry Tuomala. So this is a great little fight for 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th position. Henry Tuomala at the back of that little pack, moving over to DF1 racing for this year. He has got Fred Gabion directly ahead of him at the wheel of the Toyota Camry, but there's nothing at the moment that the Finn can do to try and squeeze his way through. So the 31-year-old just sits behind Fred Gabion, whilst onto the final lap of the race goes Tobias Dallenhauer, who is still under pressure from Ulysse Delso, but on the charge to the line with 0.6 of a second between them, it does look as though Tobias Dallenhauer is on course for his 2nd heat win of the season. And that's 2 on the bounce now for Tobias Dallenhauer, because he claimed the Heat 2 win at Zandvoort last time out and now takes the checkered flag to win heat number 3 here at Indianapolis on the road course. Ulysse Delso in 2nd place. Maran Kremers comes through to finish in 3rd, ahead of Bavo Fallon in 4th place. Justin Kuntz just ahead of Simon Palat for 5th and 6th position as they head over the start-finish line. And then we will see Fred Gabion, Henry Tuomala, Stefano Gustavalle for Cal Racing is about to head over the start-finish line. He's a team member on the number 54 car. And Philip Beresvel is, I think, just about going to hang on to the position for automatic qualification. He did manage to get himself back ahead of Sebastian Bleekie-Molen. We didn't think that would happen, but something must have happened on the final lap to Sebastian Bleekie-Molen, because it's Beresvel that goes through automatically into the final race, and Sebastian Bleekie-Molen will have to sort of hit restart, really, won't he? Because he will sort of automatically then head towards the next race will be coming up, so very little respite for him. He'll be heading through into the last chance qualification. So Tobias Dallenhauer was another driver that you picked out at the beginning of the evening, the young 22-year-old German who is going to be racing in EuroNASCAR 2 for Hendricks Motorsport in 2020. Came through as part of that all-important recruitment program that we have, and he's just claimed back-to-back wins in his heats now, Zandvoort and here at Indianapolis, Andre.
Yes, he's very fast in the sim racing world. I'm really looking forward to see him on the real track. I think he was very fast at the recruitment program and a very consistent driver, so he has the right team. Hendricks Motorsports is the championship team, and I think he can be one of those title contenders right from the beginning in his first year of EuroNASCAR. Lasse Sørensen showed it last year. Also, Giorgio Maggi, that you can be one of the top drivers right from the beginning before even touched one of those EuroNASCAR cars. And like I said, he's already excited, very thrilled to be behind of the wheel of one of those V8 monsters without any driving aids, without any technical stuff, just pure racing. And that's what he likes. And I think when you're going into a championship with this mindset that you are like, yeah, I want to do it, then you have the right attitude to be one of the front runners right from the beginning.
So we'll await Tobias Dallenhauer to come and join us in the commentary. In he pops, bang on cue. Tobias, congratulations. That's back-to-back wins in your heats now as well. A win at Zandvoort, and you've backed it up with another win here at Indianapolis. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good heat for me. I could handle to stay in the front position, and I could manage a small gap around 1 second to the second one. And yeah, it was a good heat for me.
Ulysse Delso in second place was never that far away, but by the sounds of it, you were always confident that you had the pace, had the upper hand.
Try to manage to stay in first position, because it's hard to overtake when the frontman doesn't do a mistake. So I try to stay safe, don't do a mistake, and win the heat.
You converted your heat win last time out at Zandvoort to second place overall in the main race, and therefore picked up 35 championship points. You'll be hoping for something similar, maybe heading towards victory lane in this one here this evening?
Of course, I would like to hear you after the race again, so I hope I can get to one of the first three positions, and I hope it will be a good race for me.
You look in terms of what's happening in the overall championship coming into this evening. You know, Hendricks Motorsport are having a good season in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series with likes of Loris Hazemans and yourself, all doing great things. So for a team, you've gone well together.
Yeah, of course. Jeffrey is very fast, Loris also. And if we all could stay in the front positions, we could gain a lot of points at this race, and that's our aim.
Well, we'll let you grab a quick rest, and hopefully we'll get the chance to chat to you again after the main race. But well done on the heat win.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. So that's Tobias Dallenhauer, who briefly joined us in commentary. So for this race, this again is the final 10-minute race before we head towards our 30-minute main race. So still we've not awarded a single championship point as yet this evening. We won't even award any championship points for this one. All of those points come in the main race. 40 points for a win, 35 points if you are second, 34 points if you're third, and so on. It diminishes by an extra point for every position thereafter. Now, this is the final race of the year, the main race coming up this evening, that will award 40 points, because after that, Brands Hatch and Charlotte on the Roval were in the semi-final, so it's double championship points. And when we head to Zolder for the final of the season, again, it's double championship points, 80 points for a race win. 70 if you're second, and so on. So there's still lots and lots of points up for grabs. Giorgio Maggi and Vittorio Garelli sit there on the front row of the grid. Sebastian Bleekemolen, Alex Fontana on row number 2, and Luca Caniore and Santu Fuxturian sitting there on row number 3. 10-minute race. We've had fairly clean racing so far. Let's hope that this last chance qualification race also stays fairly clean all the way through. And we're about to now get the race underway. So red lights on, red lights go out. Giorgio Maggi leads the charge up towards turn number 1. Vittorio Garelli sitting behind him. Sebastian Bleekemolen looking to try and hang on to third place. But Alex Fontana has got good momentum here heading up towards turn number 1. Needs to get his braking point right, though, so that he doesn't carry too much momentum in. There's contact further back and a couple of cars go spinning. And in fact, one of those, I think, was Luca Caniore that got caught up. Then also we have got Riccardo Spatafore dropping down through the order. We've got Alessio Bacci's got involved. I think Aurelien Dillier was also caught out in that one as well. But Giorgio Maggi leads, Vittorio Garelli in second place. And the momentum that Alex Fontana got at the start was staggering, Andre. He just seemed to draw himself cleanly alongside Sebastian Bleekemolen and had way much more momentum when the lights went out and was able to sneak through into third position.
Yes, right. It was a great start by Fontana. He did a really good job. And we saw something on the front row of this race that we will never see in the real world. We had 2 18 cars at the front row. We have 2 teammates there with Giorgio Maggi and Vittorio Garelli. In real life, they share this 18 car. But in the virtual world, they were able to start close to each other. Giorgio Maggi is going to race in the EuroNASCAR Pro after his success in the 2019 season. Vittorio Garelli was very successful in the 2019 season in EuroNASCAR 2, and I think he's going for the title with Hendrix Motorsport. So it was a very special moment to have 2 times the 18 car on the front row. And then we had this typically last chance qualifier chaos in the first lap.
We did, yeah. Sebastian Bleekemolen is now safely in 4th place. We're looking at the fight for 5th and 6th place, which is Max Palumbo having his best outing of the season for Solaris Motorsport at the wheel of the Chevy. And then the car of Santu Voxadoria that sits directly behind and is now actually directly ahead. He has been able to sneak his way through there. So Palumbo drops down from 5th into 6th position. I've only just spotted that Santu Voxadoria's car is white on my screen, so the livery hasn't loaded correctly on his screen. I know it's not that colour. I know it's sort of red and black. Quick replay of the start. Caught up there were a few cars that all dropped down through the order. 2 separate incidents, really, then. And then some of them rejoined the circuit. The likes of Fabio Spatafore got spat off and then rejoined. And I think Sebastian Bleekemolen got bumped into 3 or 4 times there. Max Palumbo trying hard. You can see the tail end of the Chevy trying to break adhesion there, but the general tyres were just able to hang on. He's trying to work his way alongside Santu Voxadoria, and he's going to squeeze his way through very late on the brakes up the inside. Fantastic stuff from Max Palumbo, who by far is having his best outing of the season. The man who's behind all of the PR and media for Solaris Motorsport, was a former member of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series media team, is now in 5th position, but has still got Santu Voxadoria sitting directly behind him. Good little fight this, Andre, isn't it?
Oh yes, and here you can see something. People who are writing, talking about motorsports, doing the press work, they all have a little bit of a race car driver inside of themselves. Of course, they're working in motorsports because they love it. And Massimiliano Palumbo is one of those fast guys. And he's not a real race car driver per se. It's the same with you as well. You are racing sometimes and you're fast, but your main job is talking about motorsport. So it's the same with me. When I get into a car in the virtual world or in the real world, I try, of course, to be fast. I try to be one of the best guys. And Massimiliano Palumbo, he lost the position right now, but he's very, very good as being a race car driver in the real world.
He's going to have to defend. He's got Chris Richards in the damaged car sitting directly behind him. You might have seen an incident as well where Alex Fontana caught the back end of Vittorio Garelli under braking for turn number 1. Garelli went off on the grass. Fontana had a bit of a spin, and all that has allowed Giorgio Maggi now to build up almost a 4-second advantage. But Max Palumbo is going to have to drive a very wide Polaris Chevy here. He has got directly behind him Chris Richards looking to try and squeeze his way through. We go on board with Chris Richard, and you can see he's almost and then there's contact. Max Palumbo gets turned around by Chris Richard, or Chris Rickard, I ought to say really, who is already damaged and will have caused more damage to the front end of that car. But that has allowed Gaspar Donovsek, Jakob Krafek, Luca Canaiore all to find their way through, and poor old Max Palumbo is now bumped down into 10th, if not 11th position, and has damage, I think, to the tail end of his car that might just hamper his efforts even further. So commentators cursed, Andre, struck there, didn't it, for Max?
As always, we should stop talking about some guys. I think that's a problem. We have to talk about some people, and when they crash 1 or 2 seconds later, it's always our fault.
We get the blame. Well, it's only right to talk about Max because he was on the bubble. It's only the top 6 that go through from this one, and that was why he was trying to defend all of the time to hang on to that final automatic qualification place, which would have seen him start in 36th and last position for the main championship race that carries the points that's coming up after this one, and that now is only about 4 minutes away, really. Alex Fontana still sitting there in 3rd place. We look back to Jakob Krafek, who is driving for the Autodrome Most car. That sits there in 7th position. Another driver that we've seen sporadically throughout the course of this season. He's the sports sales manager at Autodrome Most and stepped into the car for this week. We should have had Jere Seigel in the car last week representing Autodrome Most. Here's Simone Loretti. Let's just have a quick look what happened. Yeah, just turned into the corner. The tail end of the Ford didn't want it, so he has dropped himself further down through the order. We go back to our race leader, though, Giorgio Maggi, who is now enjoying the best part of a 1 3/4 second lead from Vittorio Garelli. In 2nd place, the 2 teammates that would usually share a car over the course of a weekend of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, but of course here in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series in conjunction with iRacing, supported by i.cin.com and Sim Racing League TV, they can have their own car. But Garelli in 2nd place is going to struggle to close that gap, I would say, Andre, largely because Alex Fontana is still not far away in 3rd position, and Garelli will be conscious of that, won't he?
Yes, of course. I think Garelli is looking more into his rear mirror right now, and not to the front where Giorgio Maggi is. I think he has to be very cautious right now because Fontana is closing in very fast. I think they are only separated by half of a car right now. So there's a great battle going on for the 2nd place. But I think nobody wants to be very riskful right now because only the top 6 advance to the main race. And you will be at the back of the grid anyway. So don't do anything too risky right now. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, you could lose everything, not get into the main race, and in the main race you're at the back, which hopefully means you've got a chance to react to a few issues if they unfold ahead of you and pick up a few places nice and early. One driver I am impressed with done in this one is Jakob Krafek, because he sits there in 6th position. He started 17 places lower than that, so he really has had a fantastic run at the wheel of the Autodrome Most car. Here's Roy Hendricks at the wheel of car number 318. Roy, who is the team manager for Hendricks Motorsport, back to the fight now also for 5th and 6th place, Sebastian Bleekemolen, hugely experienced, lots of championships under his belt, predominantly racing things like Renaults in Europe and in the Benelux countries, but under enormous pressure here from Santu Vauxhall, who is another driver that's got involved in the recruitment program. Sebastian Bleekemolen very sideways in towards turn number 1, needs to hang on to the Team Bleekemolen Ford if he can. Lots of arm twirling, just about gathers up the moment, but for a split second there it looks as though Sebastian Bleekemolen was going to slither off the circuit, but the car broke away to with the rear end stepping out to the left, then it's got a breakaway on the right, and yeah, eventually he had to use all of that experience to gather it up. But the 41-year-old Dutchman still sits there in 4th position. Santu Vauxhall sitting there in 5th place on for what will be, I think, one of his better results, but he's under pressure from the man that's gained 17 places. Yes, 17 places, Jakob Krafek, who sits there at the tail end of this little squabble, and he is the last of the automatic qualifiers now as well, so he'll be hugely conscious that if he even doesn't gain a place, at least he'll be safely through into the main championship race that will be coming up in a matter of 60 seconds time now before we see the checkered flag in this one, so it's all rather close. Bouncing over the curbs, Andre. Now, the curbs here on the Indianapolis road course do look as though they don't give you too rough a ride. It looks as though you can utilise the curbs in several places.
Yes, I have to agree very, very quickly, because we have something off camera. Alex Fontana is the new leader. Girelli is now in 2nd. Maggi lost his 1st position. He's only in 3rd. I think both of the Hendrix drivers did a little mistakes in this tricky part of the road course, and Alex Fontana made his way through both of them and is now leading the race. So we had a very nice battle. I know I saw it on my screen because I have some additional cameras working here right now. So yes, the curbs are very, very tricky. You have to be very careful, and you have to see in which corner you want to take them or when you want to leave them out. And we see it that a lot of drivers are a little bit of struggling to get the right line.
Yeah, here's the replay, and it was just a little run wide by Giorgio Maggi, and I think Vittorio Girelli almost sort of followed him into the mistake, but Alex Fontana was wise to all of that and was just able to pick them both off on the replay that we saw. Well, the checkered flag is going to be coming out at the end of this lap, so Giorgio Maggi will be bitterly disappointed that it's not a win for him, but he will still secure it through the tail end of his Hendrix Ford. Does not look happy now, the car drifting around everywhere. So maybe he's overworked the tyres a little bit too much in the early stages of the race, whereas for 42 Racing, Alex Fontana's Ford still looks rather planted on the circuit. Vittorio Girelli also sitting there in 2nd place, and Maggi, yeah, the car is drifting everywhere. Now, he's either enjoying himself still, or the back end of that car really doesn't want it anymore. Fontana's going to come through and claim the win in the last chance qualification race. Vittorio Girelli is in 2nd place. Giorgio Maggi is just drifting the car everywhere now. He is just having fun, Maggi, as he heads over the start-finish line. He can change the virtual tyres before the main race, you see, because they will want to go in the bin, that's for sure. He finishes in 3rd place. Sebastian Bleekemolen in 4th place. Jakob Krafek, 18 places gained to finish in 5th position and head through to the main championship race. And Santu Vauxhall finishes in 6th place at the wheel of his Chevy. He is the last of the automatic qualifiers. Anybody else thereafter, the likes of Chris Ricard and Luca Caniore and Aurélien Dillier and Gasper Donofsek, who completed the top 10, all are done for the evening now, and anybody else thereafter, which includes poor old Max Palumbo, who did finish off the lead lap in the end and looked as though at one point he was heading through towards automatic qualification. So Alex Fontana claims the win. He will be hugely pleased with that. Alex Fontana, who is a driver that has had 2 top 10 finishes in the season so far. He claimed 19th place in the championship opening round at Brands Hatch. He was 10th at Watkins Glen and also 10th at Zandvoort last time out. So he sits 9th in the championship standings, does Alex Fontana. But if he wants to pick up a few more championship points, he's still got a chunk of work to do in the race, Andre, because he will line up in 31st position on the grid.
Yeah, that's a problem with the last chance qualifier. You're happy that you made it to the final race of the evening, but in the end you are in 31st place, so you have the whole field ahead of you. You have to work your car through the whole field to get a good position in the race, and I think we will have a key factor in this race. I talked to Chris Lehman a little bit earlier during the the break for him after Heat 2, and he said that the tires are falling off very, very quickly here on this Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. He struggled only after around 8 minutes. So we have a 30 minutes race coming up next. So it's going to be a very, very hard challenge for everybody to save those tires. We saw it with Giorgio Maggi as well.
Yeah, so Chris Lehman and co will all have to drive with a very lighter right foot than otherwise they would wish. Confirmation of the results, and in the consolation race, the last chance qualifier, Alex Fontana, Vittorio Garelli, Giorgio Maggi, Sebastian Bleekemolen, Jakob Krafek and Santu Volksdoria all go through and take up the last 3 rows on the grid for this final main championship race that is coming up. For Luca Caniore in 7th place, Aurelien Dillier, Gasper Danovsik and Michael Stolman, they are out for the evening, as is Yevgeny Sokolovsky, Alessio Bacci, Roy Hendricks, Chris Ricardo Alita, Francesco Caristo, Ariana Casoli, Roman Tevan, Simon Lorette and Max Palumbo, as is Spatafore. And I think another couple of cars towards the end there didn't even take place in that one. So Andre Castro not only qualified on pole position, not only did he win his heat, but he now starts on pole position for this race. He's got his DF1 Racing teammate, however, sitting alongside Lasse Sorensen. So all of the individual teams have their own radio setups in iRacing, any of the software that we use, Andre. Conversations will be going on between the pair of them to say, let's not do anything silly. Let's break away. Let's work together in the early stages, and then we can fight from there. I would imagine that's what they're saying.
I think so, yes. I totally agree. I think there's going to be a little bit of a team order. Just stay calm in the first laps and then fight it out when you have a gap to the other guys. And we see that we have Dallenhauer, we have Rufen, we have Hesemans. We have
all for Hendricks, yeah.
Yeah, two DF1 racing drivers, then 3 Hendricks Motorsport drivers. So it's going to be a battle, Austria against the Netherlands again.
DF1 are outnumbered at this stage, but if Andreas Jochumsen can climb his way from 7th up towards them, then it might be 3 apiece, and they can really have a good battle then. So we will wait and see as to what happens in this one. And as you said, tyres critical. They will have to be careful. We have seen a few early stage incidents in the main races, which has taken out some of what otherwise might have been the front runners. Let's hope that we stay clean in this one. I think as long as they can safely get through turn 1 and turn 2, after that I think we're more likely to stay clean for the rest of the race. But unlike the other sorts of NASCAR racing that we see, there are no sort of safety car periods in this one. It's all localized yellows in reality, isn't it? We don't go full course caution, so if you lose the time early on, you're just not going to make it back up.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But I think in the virtual it's a little bit better to have only local cautions, because then we have green flag racing. Imagine having 3 or 4 pace laps here, and then we would have no racing anymore. So the pace guy's off, and I think we're having a green flag.
We are, yeah. Here goes Andre Castro looking to try and get the jump on everybody else, but it looks as though Lasse Sorensen is sitting behind him as they head up towards turn number 1. Jeffrey Rufen is side by side with, that will be Tobias Dallenhauer, who's sitting there in 4th place. Is everybody safely going to make it through turn number 1? They're all being very sensible at this stage through the first couple of corners, but it is Andre Castro that leads. It's Lasse Sorensen in 2nd place, Jeffrey Rufen sitting there in 3rd, Tobias Dallenhauer, Loris Heismans, Ulysse Delso, Malin Kramers, I think, is up into 6th position, but Contact and Ulysse Delso gets spun around, which is going to drop the Frenchman down through the order, the former EuroNASCAR 2 champion. I don't think the car suffered a great deal of damage as a result of that little grassy moment there. Jeffrey Rufen now up into 3rd, Tobias Dallenhauer up into 4th, Hesemans up into 5th, and Malin Kramers is up into 6th position. Alan Day down in 7th in the early stages, so it's a DF1 Racing 1-2. Hendricks cars 3rd, 4th and 5th, Andre.
Ah, yes, and I have to sort it out a little bit, because I saw several cars spinning. 2 of them were the blue DF1 cars, so I think it was Justin Kuhns and maybe Alain Moscaron. I'm not totally sure, but I think there were some incidents in the first lap, but it could have been more chaos, so everything's fine.
There's Alan Muscaron for getting fired off, and I'm not sure whether it was Justin Kuntz that inadvertently made a little bit of contact there. So Kuntz was down, right. Then there was a secondary incident as well, right. So those were the 2 that you saw on a separate screen to me. So thank you for picking up on those. Malin Kramers for Feed Vict Racing looking to see whether he can hang on to 6th place. He's got a 2-times former EuroNASCAR champion right behind him, the Israeli driver Alon Day, who is only 2nd behind Andre Villarino in terms of overall wins in the EuroNASCAR Pro Series. Now we go on board with Lasse Sorensen, looking to see whether there is any opportunity to get past Andre Castro. If the opportunity presents itself, he will go for it. But in the early stages of the race, I still think they will try and work together to try and open up the gap. And at the moment, they are not really doing that, because Jeffrey Rufen, together with Tobias Dallenhauer and the identical liveried car of Loris Hazemans, are all together. So it's 5 for the lead and then the gap back before we see Maren Kremers in 6th position. Alan Day side by side with Andreas Jurkensen. Can Jurkensen work his way through? He's having a good go, but I don't think the Danish driver is quite going to do it. No, so it's going to be 8th position still for Andreas Jurkensen. Alessandro Brigatti sits there in 9th place, and completing the top 10 at this stage is going to be Colavita that completes the top 10. So that's the order that they're in. So back over the start-finish line, Alan Day looking in his mirrors. Andreas Jurkensen Chevy right behind him, picking up the toe, and he's just too far away. It looks as though the braking area for turn 1, it's really difficult to probably gauge your braking point, Andre, is it? And if you don't quite get it right, you're carrying so much momentum. If you just brake slightly later than you wanted to, it has a real consequence, doesn't it?
Yes, you're totally right in that point, because you have this big, long straight of the Speedway course ahead of you, and there's not a big sign or something you can see in the grandstands on the wall, so you cannot see exactly where you are. So you have to have the right feeling where you are and where the braking point is. That was my experience when I was at that road course with that car. So I think the problem is that you see the wide Speedway track, the big oval ahead of you, and you think, stop, I have to brake here and go to the right for the road course. That's a very, very tricky part. You have to be very concentrated to find the right spot and to find something in the grandstands, in the wall, in the fence, or something like this to give you a little bit of orientation where you are on the track.
So we've only got 3 Fords in the top 10, and those Fords are 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. The Chevys dominating. They have the first 2 places, and they also occupy places from 6th all the way through to 11th place at the moment, Chevy. Tobias Dallenhauer sitting there in 4th place. Hendricks Motorsport teammate ahead. Hendricks Motorsport teammate behind. Now, are they getting caught, though, by the car in 5th place, which is Maren Kremers? Last lap through, Tobias Dallenhauer lapped at exactly the same pace as Loris Hazemans, and Maren Kremers behind, lost out by a couple of tenths. So at this stage, they're not quite getting caught. But through the first sector, Maren Kremers in 6th position, who's already up 3 places, started 9th on the grid, did gain a bit of time over the pair ahead. It was a couple of seconds quicker, which suggests he might have made a mistake somewhere, possibly. Going to have a quick look back, potentially at a replay of Stefano Gustavaye, but we'll see whether we can pick up on that one. The race still continuing with Andre Castro still out there in the lead at this stage. Alan Day still sitting there in 6th place, but coming under pressure now from Andreas Jurkensen and Maren Kremers, both of whom run side by side coming down the straight. Jurkensen's going to go through and gain 7th place here. Yes, he does. So the Dane goes through. Kremers trying to fight back through the next corner, but he's just going to have no choice but to tuck the Feedvic Racing Chevy behind. And Andreas Jurkensen there, so close to the tail end of the number 24 PK Car Sport Chevy of the double champion Alan Day. There was almost contact between the pair of them, but still it is Alan Day hanging on to 6th position. Remember, he wasn't able to join us last time out at Zandvoort, so he dropped down through the championship order and is now down in 10th positions in the standings, with a 2nd position at Brands Hatch, an 8th place at Watkins Glen, and of course a non-appearance at Zandvoort, so he'll need a good haul of points to try and work his way back up through the order. 6th place at the moment would give him 31 points, which still means that he's sort of losing out to the drivers, Andre, that are already at the sharp end of the championship.
Yes, I think missing a race is very critical here, but with the playoffs, with the double points in the last 3 races, you can climb back up the ladder. So I think we cannot throw Alan Day out of the competition for the title right now, but he has a lot of work to do. And something on the first corner, of course, there are some little signs on the wall, there are some piles to say, don't go straight, please turn right here. But I think it's still very, very hard to judge the right spot to brake. So just to complete the thought I had a few moments earlier.
Vladimiras Choitsis is having a great run again here. He is in 12th position now, the Cypriot driver. He's got Bavo Follon right behind him. We haven't seen huge amounts of Choitsis inside the top sort of 12 or top 15 in the main races. He's also had a fair chunk of bad luck along the way and incidents, but he's another driver that I have seen competing in several different esports championships on iRacing over the course of the last few weeks, including the British Formula 3 Championships as well, that concludes its championship season down at Donington Park on iRacing on Sunday evening. But he is going beautifully well here and is holding up Alex Fontana that sits behind. Back to the fight for the lead. Andre Castro still continuing to lead. Lasse Sorensen still there in second place. They haven't really squabbled. They haven't hauled each other up, which hasn't allowed Jeffrey Ruffin to really close in. But Ruffin in third place is just now starting to gap, is he not? Loris Hazemans, who's now in fourth place and got himself ahead of Tobias Dallenhauer, which happened a lap or so ago. So it's still DF1 Racing first and second, Hendricks Motorsport Fords third, fourth and fifth, Feedvik Racing Chevy of Maran Kramers sitting there in sixth position, Leonardo Colavita in his Chevy is seventh, Alessandro Bugatti is eighth, Simon Palat is ninth, Alan Day is now down into 10th position and potentially lost a couple of places with an issue somewhere. As we look towards the fight that's going on for 11th and 12th positions, Alex Fontana looking as though he's going to gain the place here over Bavo Fallon. Ford looking to try and get through it ahead of the Chevy. Can't quite do it at the end of the straight. So Fontana driving beautifully well. He's had to work hard so far this evening, has Alex Fontana. And he's one of those drivers that had to carve his way up through the field after problems and a mistake in the heat, and is now looking as though he has gained a raft of places in this one off the very back almost, wasn't he, following coming through in the last qualification race, last chance qualification race. Now there is Andreas Jochumsen, damage to the front end of his car, which tells a story, doesn't it? What happened to Andreas Jochumsen? Because he was right up there in the top half a dozen in the early stages. There's now looking as though he's going to drop all the way to the bottom of the order. At 9.5 minutes of the scheduled 30 gone. Still Andre Castro has led every lap so far. We ride on board with the reigning EuroNASCAR 2 champion, Lasse Sorensen, teammate to the car ahead, but trying to hunt down the lead at the same time. You can hear the short shift there as it came through that corner, then start to feed the power in again. And even when you've got warmth in the tyres, Andre, coming out at the slow corners when you've got a big long straight ahead of you, how tempting is it to get on the gas just that bit too early? I think we've lost Andre for the moment. Lasse Sorensen bouncing over the curbs, turning his way through the next little bit of the complex. I'm not sure whether you heard the question, Andre.
Unfortunately, no, I had some connection problems right now.
I was just saying, even when you've got warmth in the tyres, you come through the twisty section and you get to sort of turn 5, turn 6, and you see that big long straight coming up. Even with warmth in the tyres, how easy is it to get on the gas too early and cause yourself problems?
It's very, very easy to get on the throttle too early, and with those big V8 engines under the hood, it has so much power, the cars. You have to be very sensitive to the throttle, and having a good pedals here is very important, because you need to be very sensitive. You have to check, can I get here 50%, 60%, 70% of acceleration, and then when you get the steering wheel straight, then you push it to 100. When you do it before you put the steering wheel straight, when you're still turning, it's going to be a mess for sure.
Yeah, power oversteer. Yeah, remember we are running not the same cars as we run in the real NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. This is the I model, the iRacing version model of the NASCAR Cup Series car. So whether it be the Ford or the Chevy or the Toyota, every driver on the same fixed setup as well. Full damage modelling on. There's no resets in this one, and we've got some full race control in action as well, and man for duty, and hence we've seen a few drive-through penalties over the course of some of the heats. Lasse Sorensen still sitting there in second place. Now my eye is drawn back towards third again because Jeffrey Ruffin had gapped Loris Hazemans, but Loris Hazemans has managed to close back up again. So it's sort of 2 for the lead, then a little bit of a bigger gap, and then another pair now, albeit teammates also, fighting over third and fourth position. 12 minutes of the race gone. 8 laps completed. Andre Castro has led every one of them so far, but is still only 0.2 of a second ahead of Lasse Sorensen. We heard earlier on from Norbert, didn't we, the motorsport manager for DF1 Racing, and as you suggested, they are taking this racing very seriously, and rightly so they should, and Hendricks Motorsport are, because it's not just the individual drivers championship. There is a sort of a teams championship that we have in real racing when we get racing for real, and whoever is the winner of this esports series, that driver will carry 40 points into the teams championship when we get racing for real, Andre.
Yes, totally right. And we have to explain the team championship maybe a little bit in more detail, because it's not like a normal European championship where a team gets points. It's the car. So we have the 122 here from Andre Castro. He's in the 22 in the real world. He's sharing the car with Ander Villarinho, and both will collect points for the 22 car, not for DF1 Racing per se. So Lasse Sorensen, who's wait, I think we have a lead change right now.
We do. Lasse Sorensen has been able to squeeze his way through and ahead of Andre Castro. Castro trying to fight back, but Lasse Sorensen was so patient, waiting for the opportunity, and it has just come. And now, all of a sudden, we've got 4 for the lead of the race. Sorensen leads, Castro in second place, Jeffrey Ruffin sitting there in third place, and Loris Hazemans in fourth place. Now, these top 4 drivers, Andre, are the top 4 drivers we've got in the championship at the moment. Lasse Sorensen leads the championship. He leads the race. Jeffrey Ruffin is second in the championship. He is third in the race. Here's the replay. It was a good run coming down the straight from Lasse Sorensen. Andre Castro knew he was alongside, knew he couldn't turn in on his teammate, so did the most sensible thing. Took a wide run through the corner. See whether there was an opportunity for a cutback, but the job was done. That was surely the perfect overtaking opportunity there. So Ruffin second in the championship, he's third in the race. Loris Hazemans is third in the championship, he is fourth in the race. And Andre Castro, who has now dropped down into second in the race, lies fourth in the championship. So the cream has risen to the top again, hasn't it? These drivers are going to fight it out all season long in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series, I'm sure, Andre.
Yes, you're totally right. And I think Jeffrey Ruffin is going to take the second place from Andre Castro. He's squeezing his car through to second place. And I think Andre Castro is struggling with the tires right now. Also, Loris Hazemans is there to try to get ahead of Andre Castro right now. They're going to the next left-hander. But look at this beautiful sim racing we see.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Yeah, Robin is racing even in the virtual world as well. Andre Castro doing everything he can to attack and defend at the same time. There's traffic just up the road as well that they're going to have to deal with before too much longer, but I think you're right, Andre Castro just seems to be struggling a little bit with the tyres. Remember, we're only halfway through this race now as well. There's Castro. Ruffin sort of lagged on my screen a little bit and then appears up the inside as Castro couldn't get the car turned into the corner. Then Ruffin gets a little bit of oversteer midway through. There was then a little bit of a tag between the two of them, and Loris Hazemans was poised and ready to pounce if they tripped over each other, which they didn't. But clean racing, fair racing, albeit very close racing from all of them, and that has just allowed Lasse Sorensen to escape a little bit from their grasp. So he now leads by 2 seconds from Jeffrey Ruffin in second place as we look forward at the fight for second and third. On board with the fourth place car, the reigning EuroNASCAR Pro champion, Loris Hazemans, bouncing over the curbs on the left-hand side. No opportunity to attack into the braking area for the next of the left-handers. But you can see that as the circuit starts to open up a little bit in the next couple of corners, there could be an opportunity, but Castro will be wise to that. Out of turn number 6, down the big long straight in towards turn number 7. Now, this is where Jeffrey Ruffin was able to squeeze his way through a lap or so ago. Castro this time, though, has got enough momentum down the straight so as to hang on to third position. And I think, Andre, this is going to be one of those fights that is just going to continue all the way through the race, because if Andre Castro can just drive a nice wide car and make sure he gets off the corners cleanly, then it's not exactly going to be easy, is it, for Loris Hazemans to work his way through?
Yes, it's all about having the perfect line right now for Andre Castro, but I think he's still struggling with the tires. We have about 13 minutes left right now, and I think a lot of drivers having problems with overheating with the tire wear. Only Lasse Sørensen is incredibly fast at the front, and I think he was faster in the early stages of the races as well, but he was a little bit held back by Andre Castro, who's now shuffled a little bit further down the order. And I have one thing open about the team championship. I tried to make it very quick. The 22, Andre Castro is collecting points for the 22 car in real life, also under Villareño. On the other hand, the DF1 racing drivers, Lasse Sørensen and Andreas Jochimsen, who are sharing the 66 cars, are collecting points for the 66 car for DF1 racing. So the DF1 racing drivers for different cars are fighting each other in the team championship. So if, let's say, Lasse Sørensen wins the EuroNASCAR Esports Series, he's collecting points not for DF1 racing, but for the 66 car.
Yeah, it's called the Teams Championship, but it's not. It's really, it's the car that's shared between those two drivers. So in the case of DF1, they've probably got 3 cars in the Teams Championship in reality. Alex Fontana is now starting to think about attacking the Monster Energy Chevy that lies ahead in the hands of PK Carsport driver Alan Day. Alan Day is not that far away from Bavo Fallon, so this is Fallon in 8th place, Day in 9th place, Alex Fontana sitting there in 10th position at this stage as they all start to stretch their legs again round through turn number 11 up towards turn number 12, which is the final corner on this 2.5 mile or 4.04 kilometre Indianapolis road course. We are now, just 11.5 minutes away from the end of the race, and Jeffrey Ruffin is now back down in 3rd position. Andre Castro has made it back through again, so whatever the problem was with his car, there may be the tyres were just getting a little bit warm, and a couple of slower laps has just allowed them to cool down a little bit. It's dropped the pressures, because iRacing is very clever the way it works all the dynamics of the cars out, and all of a sudden he's able to steal the place back away. So once more, it's a DF1 Racing 1-2, and the Hendricks cars are 3rd, 4th and 5th, Andre.
Yes, totally crazy race we have here, and we have 10 minutes left in this race. And I think this battle is still going on. I don't think that everything is decided right now. The only thing is, Lasse Sørensen at front, he's taking advantage from the battle behind him. Of course, when they are fighting each other, they're losing time, and Lasse Sørensen has the opportunity to build that kind of a gap. And I think when he's managing his tires well, he is on a good way to win his first race in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series. And remember, this could be the 5th winner in 5 races, including the prologue.
Absolutely, to have 5 different winners in 5 races as we enter the semi-finals, and it becomes double points after this race here this evening, then that's really going to leave the championship on a knife edge. Now, Jeffrey Ruffin, having been 2nd, dropping down into 3rd, is now allowing Andre Castro to break away from him. A slightly wiggly moment from Loris Hazeman's cost him what otherwise I think would have been a good run there coming over the start-finish line. But he's going to have a go, and he's through. He's now up into 3rd position. Can he get the car anchored up for turn number 1? Yes, he can. Hazeman's through into what is now 3rd position. Jeffrey Ruffin down into 4th place, having been 2nd at the beginning of the lap. We go on board with Ruffin, now looking at his teammate that lies ahead. So it's still a DF1 Racing 1-2. It's still Hendricks Fords in 3rd, 4th and 5th position, but it's now Hazeman's up to 3rd place, Ruffin down to 4th. Whilst you were chatting, Andre, we did see a replay of exactly how Andre Castro got his way through. Jeffrey Ruffin didn't exactly make it easy. There was contact, but after that, then once the door was open, he'd managed to barge his way through. Slight problem there for Bavo Fallon, which I think might have cost him a little bit of time. He's now running in 9th position. There we go on the replay. Yeah, just tried to turn in. Contact between himself and the front end of Simon Palat's car, and Bavo Fallon took to the grass as a result of what happened between the pair of them. And that means now that Fallon is in 9th position. Simon Palat is now up 11 places from his starting position and is now in 7th place. But look at the queue of cars that sits behind him. Simon Palat in 7th place, Alan Day in 8th place, Bavo Fallon 9th. Then it's Alex Fontana, and I think Ulysse Delceau isn't that far away as well. So this is a great little fight for 7th, certainly through to 10th position, if not almost 11th.
And I think Alan Day...
It's Scott Jeffs, rather, that's at the back of it.
Yeah, I think Alan Day has some problems to get back the positions he lost early in the race. Alan Day was fighting for a top 5 spot in the first laps, then was shuffled back. I don't know exactly what happened there, but now he's caught up in this big train of cars, and he has some problems getting further back to the top of the standings. I don't know what's the problem with the 24 car. Maybe he has some damage, but it looks good to me.
Yeah, well, he sort of started in 14th position, didn't he, Alan Day? And is now running in 11th place. We just saw a bit of an off there for Giorgio Maggi, the tail end of the number 18 Hendricks Motorsport Ford, crying enough, and a bit of a grassy moment that the Swiss driver had to gather up. Back to the fight for 7th place. Simon Palat still doing a good job of holding off the aspirations of 2 times former NASCAR Pro champion Alan Day. Alan Day, again, a little bit sideways, even turning into the corner there. A bit of turning oversteer by the look of things to me on that Monster Energy Chevrolet. Of course, he'll very easily get power oversteer if he thumps the accelerator a bit too quickly. But down the straights they will go. Bavo Fallon not that far behind. Then, after Bavo Fallon, it's Alex Fontana. Ulysse Delso is just outside of the top 10 at the moment. Brian Crowles is in 11th. Colavita, Chris Lehman going well. He's in 14th place. Davide Delara 15th. And Henry Tuamala sits there in 16th position at the moment. But 7 minutes to go. We're looking at the fight for 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th places at this stage. Whilst Lassie Sorensen has sort of checked out, hasn't he, in the lead? 4 seconds up the road now is Lassie Sorensen. There's still a fight going on for 2nd and 3rd, though. Castro and Hazemans are still only half a second apart. So here is Andre Castro. And there is, right behind him, Loris Hazemans. They've just managed to gap Jeffrey Ruffin a little bit. And here is Lassie Sorensen. So nice, clean, clear air around Lassie Sorensen. He can fully concentrate his efforts on the road ahead. No such worries about what's going on behind him. There's no real back markers for him to worry about either in this one, Andre. It just seemed as though there was half an opportunity. He got a really good run coming out on turn number 6 to grab the lead of the race. And since then, with a mixture of maybe an overheating tyre for a lap or two for Andre Castro and then the squabbles that were going on, it's just given him the gap and the advantage that he wants with 6 minutes to go. I think we might have lost Andre again there, possibly. So
I'm here. Now I'm back. Yeah, some connection problems. I'm sorry for that.
Hey.
Yeah, Andre Castro. The problem is, I think he's still struggling with the tires. You see sometimes the car a little bit sliding, but I think he managed to adopt and change his driving style a little bit. And now he's getting the maximum out of this car. But it took some time. And I also told you a little bit earlier in the broadcast that you have to be in the rhythm for the road course part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I think when he got overtaken by Jeffrey Ruffin, he lost a little bit of that rhythm. And when he got back the rhythm, adopted his driving style a little bit, he was quick again. So it was the tires, maybe get them a little bit cooler, get the temperature down, but also adopting the driving style and get back into the rhythm.
Yeah, it is difficult, isn't it, when you break that rhythm to try and get back into it. Here we go back towards the fight for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th position. Alan Day under attack from Bavo Fallon. Is there contact between the pair of them? No, not quite. Alan Day bounces over the curve, but Bavo Fallon's going to steal the place here, and Alex Fontana's going to want to try and have a little bit of that as well. He's now looking to try and get the 42 Racing Ford through and up the inside of the double former champion. Alan Day will have none of that. The PK Car Sport Monster Energy back Chevy fights away as they head round through the twists and turns of the infield road course section, but Alan Day has just lost 1 place. He doesn't want to lose a further one, and now look who's caught up as well. Ulysse Delso, who was just a little bit off these cars, has now caught up fully in 11th position. So it is now the fight for 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th position. The light blue car with the white stripes that's at the back of this is going to be the car that's a lap down, and now Alex Fontana looks to try and get a move again on Alan Day. I think there's a little bit of contact between the pair of them going into the corner. Alan Day still managing to hang on to it. There's further contact coming out, and Alan Day gets spun around by Alex Fontana. So a 360-degree spin on the grass for Alan Day moves Alex Fontana up into 9th place. Ulysse Delso comes up into 10th place. The Ford of Brian Crowles comes up into 13th place, and Alan Day will rejoin after his spin on the grass 4 places down from where he started on the grid and is now down into 12th position. Let's have a quick look. Bouncing over the curbs was Alex Fontana there, and Alan Day just got tagged at the rear end of that one. Alan, we know Alan Day particularly well. It might be virtual racing, but he is a hugely competitive driver there, and he won't be happy, I wouldn't have thought, with that one, Andre, for sure.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I had the exact same thought about the feelings of Alan Day right now that you had. So I think Alan Day is going to be a little bit angry, a little bit frustrated, because he loves winning. He's there to be competitive. He's there to win races. He doesn't care about politics. He doesn't care about stuff going on around the paddock. He's just there to race and to win. And he does not separate the real world and the simulator that much. For him, it's all about winning, also in the virtual world. And he is a very fast driver here, but he has some problems here today. The car is not handling very well. I think maybe the setup is not suit him very good, but also now with the little crash he had with Fontana, it's going backwards for the Israeli who won the EuroNASCAR championship 2 times.
Yeah, 2017, 2018 champion. He, of course, has raced over on the other side of the Atlantic in Xfinity, in the Monster Energy Series, and in the Camping Truck Series as well. So he's taken in a few races on the other side of the Atlantic. We've now got just under 2 minutes to go. We're looking at Simon Palat, who is running in 7th position. Even if he finishes in 7th place, that's a fantastic result, because he is now 11 places up from where he started. Bavo Fallon sits behind him, who started 12th and is now running in 8th position. Alex Fontana, I think, might be on for the 4 additional points for the most places gained. 22 places gained so far for Alex Fontana in his progress through the order. So he has done beautifully well, and might pick up the extra 4 points for the driver that gains the most places from starting position to finishing position. But we've still got another lap and a bit to go potentially. Bavo Fallon looking to try and apply the pressure onto the Feedvic Racing Chevy of Simon Palat that lies directly ahead of him. It'd be great to see the young 18-year-old Belgian driver in the EuroNASCAR Whelen Euro Series when we get things underway for sure. He was a semi-finalist in the Feedvic Racing's 2019 selection process, and is certainly proving his worth at E-Racing as well, keeping Bavo Fallon right behind him with now less than 60 seconds to go in this one. It certainly looks as though Lassie Sorensen, I should say, who is leading the race and is about to start his final lap, is on course for a win. I think he's already now on to his final lap, is Lassie Sorensen, as this fight for 7th and 8th places continues. Let's just have a quick look at what happened to Henry Tuamala for DF1 Racing down the main straight, looking to try and attack Chris Lehman's car that sits ahead of him. And as they turn through the next little complex of corners, Henry Tuamala, nice and neat and tidy, is not really going to be able to close up on Brian Crowles. Now, Alex Fontana has headed to... There might be a drive-through penalty for that contact.
Yeah, I haven't seen any sign right now or any information that we had a drive-through penalty, but I think that could be a penalty for him. And Lasse Sørensen, look at this, 4.5 seconds in the lead. I think he's going to be our 5th winner in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series, expanding, of course, his championship lead in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series. So I think this is going to be a great day for DF1 Racing again, but the fight for the 2nd position is still not over. Loris Hesselmans is still at the back of Andre Castro, and I think maybe there's one opportunity left.
Yeah, I think there might be one more roll of the dice for Loris Hesselmans. For Alex Fontana, pit in to pit out. He's now showing, so it does suggest that it wasn't some sort of drive-through penalty. Here comes Lassie Sorensen to make it 5 winners out of the 5 different races, if we include the prologue, in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series in conjunction with iRacing, supported from i.can.com and Sim Racing League TV. He will be a very happy Danish driver. Andre Castro comes through to finish in 2nd place, and Loris Hesselmans makes it home in 3rd place. So it's a DF1 Racing 1-2. The Hendricks Fords of Hesselmans, of Jeffrey Rufen and Tobias Bauernhauer finishing 3rd, 4th and 5th in the end. Marion Kramer's in 6th place, just ahead of this battle for 7th and 8th place. It still goes the way of Feedvic Racing's Simon Palat, just ahead of Bavo Fallon, who finished in 8th place. Ulysse Delso will finish in 9th place, and Brian Crowles, who we spoke about earlier on, who does all of the hard work trying to establish the baseline setups that everybody uses in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series, will complete the top 10. So Lasse Sorensen is going to celebrate with a few donuts here on the Indianapolis road course. We'll run you down through the full set of results, and then I think we could probably throw to some highlights of some of the previous racing that we've had in the 2019 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series whilst we gather our drivers for the post-race interviews. Alex Fontana, I think, is now not going to pick up the extra 4 points for gaining the most places, or is he? He crossed the line in 18th place. That is still 13 places ahead of where he started. So I think despite the drive-through penalty, the 4 additional points might still be going the way of Alex Fontana. We'll get confirmation of that, though, over the course of the next hour or so, and the official results will all be posted on the EuroNASCAR.com website as well. Giorgio Maggi hasn't had the look in the race, but he's still sliding the car around through the final couple of corners. He will head over the start-finish line and take the checkered flag. And the last few cars just trickling their way over now, which by the look of things include Santo Vauxhall, who, again, didn't quite have the look that he was looking for. So we will bring you the full rundown of the results. So we will grab our drivers, and whilst we're grabbing them, we'll look at some of the highlights from some of the previous year's racing that we've had. So confirmation of the results, and Lasse Sorensen, who was already the championship leader, subject to official confirmation, picks up maximum championship points for the first time this season with his first win. Ahead of his DF1 Racing teammate Andre Castro. Loris Hasemans, Jeffrey Ruffin and Tobias Dallenhauer complete the top 5, with Maren Kramers, Simon Polat, Bavo Fallon, Ulysse Delso and Brian Crowles completing the top 10. Despite the little bit of contact which pitched him into a spin, Alan Day finishes in 11th position ahead of Leonardo Colavita. Chris Lehman having a great run, finishing in 13th place from Henry Tuamala, Guillaume de Flandre, Alan Muscaron, Fred Gabion and Alex Fontana, despite the drive-through penalty, still finished 18th, and I think mathematically might have picked up the extra 4 points for gaining the most places, as he finished in 18th position. In 19th place, it is going to be Claudio Sabatini, Jakob Krafek, Vladimiras Joitsis, Giorgio Maggi, Justin Kuntz, Santo Vauxhall, Alessandro Brigatti and Vittorio Gorelli finish the top 26, and then to get through the top 30, Scott Jeffs, Davide Delara, Gordon Barnes and Ben Creaner. Navitella, Philip Beresvel, Stefano Gustavalle, Andreas Jukemsen, Ruben Garcia and Sebastian Bleeky-Molen was the last of the drivers that will pick up the championship points in this one. So before we get our drivers into the commentary box to have a chat to some of those stars that we've just seen out there on circuit, let's look back at some of the highlights when we raced on the oval circuit at Venray in the Netherlands in 2019. So there we go. Look back at some of the highlights from a fantastic weekend of racing in 2019 on the only oval circuit on the calendar, Venray in the Netherlands. Some of our drivers that we've just seen out there on circuit have joined us in the virtual commentary box. We will start with our race winner heading for the first time in the 2020 season to the victory lane in the EuroNASCAR Esports Series. Congratulations, Lasse Sorensen. Well done. A win and the DF1 Racing 1-2 for the team.
Yeah, it was a good race. Had some good pace and really felt like I could manage my tires throughout the whole race. So that was really good. A big thanks to Andre Castro for letting me so easy by. I think that was the best thing we could do for the team and DF1 Racing. So all in all, a good race for the whole team. So a lot of good points, and I guess also some good points for the drivers' championship.
You say sort of, thank you to Andre for letting you through. Was that a conversation that occurred on the DF1 Racing team radio? Because I know some of the drivers are in touch with each other and can chat to each other.
Well, actually, we didn't speak to each other, but I think I was trying to push him for a couple of laps. I think 4 laps, and then I think Andre is a very clever driver. So I think for the whole team, it was best to let me by, and then he could try to hang on. So no communication, but I think it was just clever driving.
We've now completed the standard part of the season. We head towards those all-important double points playoffs that are coming up. You've now had a win, you've had a second, you've had a third, you've had a fifth. So you've had brilliant consistency, Lasse. But the one thing that you can't afford to do is have a bad evening when we get to the double points situation, can you?
Yeah, for sure. We need the points when we get to the double points. But I think if you use your brain a bit and think more how you would think in real life, then I think you often don't end up in some stupid situations. So I think it's all about thinking about what you do and don't be too aggressive and don't end up in some situations where you have to change to spin or something like that. So all in all, I think.
Go on.
All in all, I think it's about clever driving and managing the whole race.
A couple of final quick questions. You know DF1 Racing well. You secured the EuroNASCAR 2 championship with them last year. How important would it be for you and DF1 Racing as a team to head into the real NASCAR Whelen Euro Series season when we get it going, having secured this championship, which gives you those 40 team points?
Yeah, for sure, it will be good for the whole team. So that's also why we have to think about that and take this very serious. So it will be a good start to the whole season, and I can't wait to get into the real car again and show my skills there as well. So hopefully we'll have some great battles in real racing as well.
And the final quick one before we bring Andre in, because I don't want to leave him hanging around too long. You talk about get into a real car, but virtual cars are where you are for the moment, and heading slightly away from NASCAR. You'll be racing for Aston Martin in the virtual Le Mans.
Yeah, that was a big chance for me. So my good friend Nicky Tim asked me if I want to do the race with Aston Martin. So it's a totally different category. It's endurance racing. So all in all, we did a lot of testing into that. So unfortunately, I couldn't prepare so much for this race, but that's how it goes. I'm looking much forward to
as it clearly shows.
Says Loris Hazelman's in the background. Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same, Loris. Well done, Lasse. We'll catch up with you next week as we head towards Brands Hatch. Well done on the win, and well done on stretching your championship lead.
Thank you very much.
So let's bring in. He's been very patient waiting for us. Andre Castro, who finished in second place. Lasse said, "Thank you for letting him through." Was that the case, Andre?
Yeah, well, I didn't let off the throttle or anything, but he just got a run coming onto the backstretch, I guess, the infield straightaway, and it was a really good run. So he was shouting me for 3 or 4 laps. I could tell he was faster, so I didn't defend. And then I thought maybe I could settle into a rhythm behind him and follow him, but he just had a lot of pace. So a good win to Lasse because he was definitely faster than the rest of the field. And then after that, it was just a good scrap for second. Just with Jeffrey just throwing it in. He threw it in on me once and was pretty aggressive. So I did the same thing back to him, and yeah, we just it was a tough scrap for second at that point because it was later in the race. When Lasse caught me, it was probably more than half the race to go, and at that point, there's no real point in fighting and risking a bad team result. So just thought I could follow him and settle into a rhythm, and then ended up having to fight with the Hendricks cars, but came out on top in the end. So good racing with Jeffrey and Larice, and it was good to have a pole heat win and second in the final. So happy.
There was one stage of the race, where the car you had dropped to second and you briefly dropped to third. We weren't sure whether maybe, because we did think a 30-minute race here, tyres might be an issue. Was that a problem for you?
Yeah, the rears were just gone, especially I think around halfway was when I kind of overheated them, and I could see everybody closing in from behind. I think once Lassie got around me, then I was able to sort of get the tires back into a good temperature window, good performance window. And then I was able to pull away a little bit from the guys behind. So yeah, it was a tough middle portion of the race, just dealing with the rears falling off because there's I think about 4 or 5 seconds difference in a hot lap versus what we were running in the end. So yeah, that's just insane. I think with the new iRacing build, the tire wear is even more pronounced. So it was really hard to keep the rears on it. But in the end, we nursed it home and got a good result. So.
Well done on that. Brands Hatch next up on the Grand Prix circuit. You went well when we were there on the Indy circuit in real life, and when we were there earlier on in the esports season, you managed to win your heat. So you'll be hoping for good things on the longer configuration.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so many corners that we've never seen before. So it's going to be tough for all the drivers to. It's a completely different track. I mean, you share like maybe 3 or 4 corners, but the Indy track has such a bullring feel to it, sort of short track feel. It's a very small race track, whereas this track winds down into the woods, and it's pretty beautiful, honestly. But yeah, I personally don't have a lot of experience there, so it's gonna be a challenge. But yeah, thanks to everyone at the Euro Series for putting this on, for DF1 Racing for having me on, and Whelen, gotta rep them real quick. Thanks for them sponsoring the series, and yeah, so it's been fun, and these last 3 races are going to be good with double points, a lot at stake, so I'm excited.
Well, we look forward to chatting to you again. Well done, Andre Castro, on second position, and we'll bring in the driver that finished in third position. Loris Hasemans joins us in the commentary box. Loris, it was a real hard-fought battle, yourself and all of your Hendricks teammates going at it, trying to close in on the DF1 boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the beginning, similar to what DF1 did, we were trying to work together. So as you were mentioning, Mark, we actually do communicate between each other during the race. So me, Jeffrey, and the rest of the Hendricks guys. So we were kind of saying to each other, okay, let's make sure we do not fight with each other in the beginning of the race. Try to keep with the leading pack, and then afterwards, later in the race, let's see what we can do.
We were chatting through, and you're the reigning EuroNASCAR Pro champion. We've now had 5 different winners in the esports series out of 5 races, if you include the prologue. Your race win, the main championship race win that carries all of those points, can't be far away, and your best bet is hold on to that until it becomes double points.
Yeah, exactly. So like in the real life EuroNASCAR, basically the double points is where you can gain a huge amount of points, or you can basically throw it all away. So I think consistency is key. So far, I've basically finished all the races, and I think that's what's most important, first of all. So definitely, especially coming into these double points races.
Well, what we'll have to do for next time out at Brands Hatch is make sure we get you on video, because I don't think we're getting the video stream of you. What we've got is Andre sitting to the side of me on the live stream. Give us your thoughts on Brands Hatch. When you've done bits of which you've done a lot in Europe in sports cars in the past, particularly in Blancpain, is that a circuit that you've experienced?
Yeah, I think it's a great circuit. There definitely is no margins forever. I once experienced that in real life, but that's another story. Yeah, but definitely, I do like the track a lot. It is really challenging, and it will be interesting to see, basically how everybody's going to cope, because it definitely is not a forgiving track.
You look at where you'll be in the championship standings after this evening. You were lying third coming into this one. You'd had sort of a third. You've now had 2 thirds, a fourth and a fifth. You were only 3 points behind your teammate Jeffrey Ruffin, who finished 3 places behind you. You're going to be tied on points, if I've got the maths right, heading towards Brands with your own teammates.
Yeah, I think the important thing to note is there's still a few rounds to go, and the most important is in the end that these points go towards a real life team championship.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we are all aiming, or basically trying to do the best for the team. So I think we, or at least I am definitely keeping that in mind.
And the old saying that I've come up with in EuroNASCAR over the previous few years is you can't win the championships in the main season, but by golly, you can lose the championship in the playoffs when we go double points. It's consistency, and you've had that so far, Loris.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we can build on from this. Also want to say thank you to Jeffrey and Tobias for all working good together. Jeffrey also let me go there at one point, so he said, "Okay, try to see if you can catch up to them." So really thankful, and now returning the favor one time around again.
Well, thanks for chatting to us, Loris. We'll try and hook you up on the video next week if we can at all. But well done on a solid championship evening.
Yeah, I don't think you want to see me on video. I'm like wearing a big VR mask. It's not the best look in the world. But
take that off before the interview. Well done. Congratulations, though.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Our final driver interview of the evening. We've spoken to the top three. Andre Weigel, who continues to join me in commentary. 5 different winners out of 5 races. Lasse Sorensen has just stretched his championship lead, but anybody could win this still with 3 races to go. Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, Charlotte Roval, and the finals at Zolder, all double points.
Yes, you're totally right. I don't know who I would put my money on. I think we will have a great battle between Hendrix Motorsport and DF1 Racing again, like in the 2019 Real World NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. And yeah, Loris Hazelmans, I think it would be better to see you with the VR cloak on, because I was in the picture all the time. So I would like to see him instead of me all the time just looking around. But thanks for having me here, Mark. I think we saw some great racing again in this virtual racing series of EuroNASCAR, and I think we were up to exciting and thrilling playoff races at Brands Hatch, at the Roval at Charlotte, and at the Circuit Zolder. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And as long as we are not allowed to race on the real world tracks, I think this is a good way to keep everybody happy. And I'm really, really entertained, and that's all about in motorsports, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's great fun doing it. Well done to the organisers of the EuroNASCAR Esports Series. Thank you to iRacing for their support as well, and the support that comes from i-cin.com and the Sim Racing League TV. We couldn't do it without our other partners as well that are involved in the main championship, like TJ, like Whelen, like General Tyre. So we considerably thank all of those and all of the people that help organise it from Team FJ. In the background. But that's it for this evening. We've now seen our 5th different winner out of the 5 races, if we include that prologue event at Daytona. Next time out, we go back to Brands Hatch. We've already had one visit there earlier on in the season. That was on the Indy circuit. We're back there on the Grand Prix circuit next Tuesday evening. Semi-final number 1, double championship points. It's all to play for. That's all from this evening from the EuroNASCAR Esports Series. From myself, Mark Werrell, Andre, and the rest of the team. Until next week, goodbye.